You guys ready? Good evening, everybody. This is Seth Engelborg, Chair of the Nantucket Conservation Commission. We are meeting today for the May 8th meeting of the Nantucket Conservation Commission in a hybrid format. The in-person component of this meeting is in the Public Safety Facility Community Room, and some people are joining us on Zoom. Before we get started, we are going to begin by establishing a quorum of members. So members, when you hear your name, please respond in the affirmative. Mike Mizzarelli.
Here.
RJ Turcott.
Here.
Joe Plandowski.
Here.
John Schaefer.
Here.
Linda Williams.
Here.
And Seth Engelberg is here. Commissioner Brain is expected to attend, but is running late in traffic. So he'll get here when he gets here. The first thing that we need to do is to go over our continuances for tonight. The following items are continued. Under notice of intent, section B, no waiver required. We have the Nantucket Islands Land Bank, Smooth Humming Sway, SC 48 3893, continued till May 22nd. Under notice of intent, section C, waiver required, pre-January 1st submissions. We have the Summer House of Nantucket Realty Trust, 10 and 16 Ocean Avenue, SC 48 3824, continued till May 22nd. We have West Assured LLC at 62 Anoma Way, SC 48 3869, continued till May 22nd. Under and I believe that's it. So at this time, is there a motion to accept the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Mike, and we'll take Joe for the second. We do have to do a roll call vote. Mike Mizzarelli,
Aye.
RJ Turcott,
Aye.
Joe Plandowski,
Aye.
John Schaefer,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
Aye.
Seth Engelberg, aye. That carries unanimously. Moving on, we'll go to public comment. This is for items not listed under an agenda item tonight. We will be using the select board's procedure for public comments, establishing a 3-minute time rule, and not responding or engaging in testimony, just simply hearing the comment and taking it under advisement. At this time, does anybody physically present in the room wish to make a public comment? Does anybody on Zoom wish to make a public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on to the public hearing. We'll begin our public hearing under notice of intent. No waiver required for pre-January 1st submissions. We'll begin with 3 Star Farm LLC at 76 Eel Point Road, SC 48 3884. I am recused from this application. Well, actually, just before I recuse, I'll note for the record that Commissioner Brain has joined the meeting at 5:03 p.m. and will be taking his seat here soon. So I am recused from this application. Linda, you can take over as chair.
Okay.
And when you're done with this application, somebody can go get me. I'll be outside. I'd appreciate it.
Okay. I may have to cough and sneeze. The annual town meeting is still giving gifts here. I've not been this sick since before COVID. So if I go to mute, it's because I'm coughing myself to death. Okay. So we're going to hear 3 Star Farm LLC, 76 Eel Point Road, SE 48 3884. Representing the applicant is Mark Ritz. Go for it.
Good evening, Mark Ritz, along with Dan Malloy here representing the applicant at 76 Eel Point Road. At the last meeting, members of the commission requested additional information, including a revised site plan with a cross-section, some construction sequencing, and a few other items. We have provided that. Basically, we've included a site plan that shows a cross-section through jurisdictional areas of work. We have provided a description of construction sequencing where initial silt fence installation will be done at the limit of work, followed by clearing and construction of retaining walls. Upon completion of construction of retaining walls, a second row of silt fence will be installed at the top of the retaining walls. So we'll have a silt fence at the bottom and a silt fence at the top, and then the rest of site work will be done. We will also be installing a fence shown on the plan, a construction fence that will run from the access of the property down to the limit of work along the western side of the property to address concerns about possible encroachment onto the abutting property to the west. We have also increased the amount of infiltration on the property. We will now be capturing and infiltrating all rainfall within jurisdictional areas. It will be captured on site and infiltrated in the same area, so there will be no significant net change to hydrology. Water that is currently falling on that portion of the site now will be infiltrated on that part of the site. Our previous submission was capturing the majority of the rainwater. We have increased the infiltrator capacity significantly. Now we'll be capturing everything. That's pretty much it. I'll be happy to answer any additional questions. Thank you.
Did you happen to say when you were going to start this project? Because I know some neighbors were worried about the accesses during the summer, in particular the noise and runoff.
We don't have a specific start time of year. I mean, we're still in process with Heritage. We're going to have to go through that process. We may get a time of year restriction with them. We don't know, but we don't have an actual planned construction time. Likely it would be not in the middle of peak season, but I can't say for sure.
And you were retaining all of it on site, which was one of the comments that was made at the last one, where only like 70% of it was contained on site. Where'd the rest go? So if you're making a representation, it's being entirely contained on site. I think that solved one of the neighbors' biggest issues. Will, have you looked at this and are you comfortable with what they proposed?
Will.
Sorry, Linda, I was muted and needed to stop the screen share. I think that that's a pretty loaded question for the conservation agent.
Yes, it is.
I'm just being honest, it's a very complicated plan. I think that we need to, any like technical questions about how that works as far as directing the water. I think we should ask the engineer. I feel like what I'm saying sounds like such a cop-out, but I think like if we want more clarity on this stuff, we can ask for more explanation from the project reps. I think it's a bit of a complicated situation if you want to, and Mark, I'm sure we'll talk to Mark after this and he can correct me if I'm wrong. But a situation like this, they're probably limited in what they can do to divert stormwater to where we would like it to be. I could not tell you if this would be the best way to do it. I guess that's what I mean by it's a little beyond the level of expertise of mine. But I certainly think that we can ask some more clarifying questions on it.
Okay. Do we ever send anything to Ed Pesci, or is that strictly site review?
I have not. I can find out if that's an option.
Okay. All right. We'll just wait for comments from the board. Who wants to go first down there? I can see you. I just can't see hands.
I'll go first, Linda, if that's okay.
Is that Mike?
Yes, Mike
Okay.
Israeli.
Yep.
So we've been going back and forth on this for a little while. We've had plenty of comments from abutters. Appreciate all that from everybody. Thank you. I'm pretty happy with what we see here on the drainage and the grading. I mean, it's basically seems to be catching all the storm water from the grading. The way the house is being constructed, in the location it's being constructed, there's no other way to do it, in my opinion, than with the walls. So I'm pretty pleased at what we see here. That's just my 2 cents on it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. RJ, you want to go next?
Thank you, Chair Williams. And thank you to the applicant for the cross-section. I know I'd been asking for that for a while, and it is really helpful. Is through you, the chair, to the applicant, is the infiltration going to be at the same elevation or similar elevation to the subsurface propane and the pool and the cabana at 26 or 25 feet?
Go ahead, Mark.
I think I'll let Dan answer this one.
Good afternoon, Dan Malloy. So the infiltration will be starting at grade, obviously where we collect it. Then the pits will be all located below everything else. So the bottom of all these pits and all these structures would be below the utilities, below the propane tank.
Does that answer your question, RJ?
How far below are we talking? 3, 4 feet, 5 feet?
Well, we've got the bottom of the leach pits right around elevation 12 in some cases, sometimes down around 10. The bottom of the propane tank, for example, if you're looking at the tank that's on the bottom of the site plan, that tank will probably only be 4 or 5 feet underground. So in some cases, you might have a 6 to 10 foot differential between the bottom of the propane and the actual bottom of the leach pit.
Okay, thank you. So the elevation difference we're talking about here is 15 or 16 feet at the lower part or the northernmost part of this project. We're underneath the pool, underneath the cabana, underneath some of those utilities. And by area, it looks to be somewhere around 8,300 square feet or so of going from an elevation that's around 10 now by the wetland to 26 feet. And that's a story and a half of fill. And I'm wrestling with how that meets our performance standard, B2, 390-18B2, which I have pulled up, and isn't going to change how this wetland functions. It's not an amount of fill we normally deal with or permit. It's 16 feet. It's almost as if we're stacking a lot on top of another lot right there. And there's a retaining wall that's 4 feet. And then on the northwestern side, there's a tiered second retaining wall. And this is just it's the north end of Trotz Hill. It's geographically really dynamic, and I'm just really wrestling with how this isn't going to fundamentally change how a raindrop that lands there right now is going to find its way down to Pete Hole and the other unnamed wetlands that are surrounding it. I personally have never dealt with a project with this amount of fill. So that's where I'm at right now. I understand that you can catch all the stormwater, but you're not catching it at the same point. It's not doing the same thing, and it's a sensitive area. Thank you.
Thank you. Who's next, Joe?
I don't have any comment at this point.
Okay. Who's next? I can't see. Oh, Tim, do you have any comments?
I missed most of his presentation, so I don't.
There wasn't a lot before you came in. John?
Yeah, so I'm looking at the driveway. It looks like you cut and filled it, so it just levels it out. Is that what I'm seeing here? So it's pretty flat now instead of like a roller coaster? Is that right?
Yes, it's basically an even cut and fill on the driveway.
Yeah, okay, so that's what it looks like. And then I remember you said that maybe 70% of the material was going to come from the excavation site, right? Last meeting?
We think that about, 50 to 75%, somewhere in that ballpark, will come from the excavation and the evening out of the driveway, and the reduction of the slope where the main house is going outside the 100-foot buffer.
Okay. I think it looks good. Thanks.
Okay, a couple of questions. The only thing we have jurisdiction over at the moment is everything outside the blue line, correct? Not where the house is going.
Yeah, I think that's
Is
right.
that correct? Mark?
Your jurisdictional areas are, if you're looking at the plan, to the left and above the blue line.
Yeah. And where you're adding most of the fill is on inside that blue area where the house is going, correct?
It's between the 50-foot wetland buffer and, which is the dashed, um, uh, purple line,
Purple line.
and
Yeah.
the dashed blue line, the 100-foot buffer. It's a significant, not all of the fill, but a significant percentage of the fill is going in that area. On the cross section, we've also included the 50-foot and 100-foot buffer, and you can see that the pool is just inside the 100-foot. There's still additional fill outside the 100-foot, but a portion of the fill is between that 50 and 100.
Just a question. Is there's a reason why you didn't follow the more of the existing topography to eliminate so much fill going on top of that hill? And it's not like they're the only ones that are doing this out there. If you look at the other side of Eel Point Road, every one of those people have added fill onto the top of the hill to boost the house up so they can see the water. And I assume that has something to do with this. But is there any reason why more of the existing grade didn't get followed? It's undulating, to say the least.
Well, where the house actually is, we're cutting down the grade considerably to get the house in. We're not filling to the top of the hill. We're cutting down on the top of the hill to get the house situated. And this is really just to sort of even out the area around the house. I can let Dan answer that in more detail.
Well, that answers my question because I was curious how much of the top of the hill you're cutting off and then dispersing it around the outside of the house to get some sort of a level playing field. So I think you've answered the question. Does anybody else have any comments? From what you said, Mark, we don't have all the information that we need at the moment because you're waiting for the state.
This project was under separate review with Heritage prior to the filing of
Yeah.
the NOI. It's my understanding that those projects can be closed and conditioned to comply with whatever the final outcome of the Heritage review is. There's a separate checkbox on the application form for ongoing, reviews that occurred prior to the NOI filing.
Okay, other than that, Will, do we have what we need?
So
Ask a
We
quick,
do, but I'm pretty sure that's true about NHESP, but you need to double check. Also, RJ's got his hand raised, but
Okay, I know Dan has his hand raised. RJ?
I'm also just curious if we could get the volume of fill that's planned to be put in there. Just ballpark.
Well, a lot of it's probably going to come from the foundation of the pool and that thing. Dan, can you answer that question?
oh, we haven't,
Roughly.
I mean, I've answered simply, we haven't calculated the volume of fill. So I don't have a number for you.
Oh, you had another comment?
So
I just had one quick question. I know Mr. Brain came in late, and I'm just interested if he wants us to recap anything, if he's going to be able to vote.
No, I think I've got enough information to vote. Thank you.
Thank you.
Basically, you were just going over what it was that you had submitted, the section and that stuff. RJ, do you have another comment?
I'd really like to know what the volume calculated is. It's really, I'm hung up on the 10 to 26 feet for that area down by the retaining wall, which to me looks to be 5 to 8,000 square feet that you're bringing up to that grade of 26. And if half of that fill has to come from off-site, I'd really love to know how many cubic yards we're talking here about bringing in. Thank you.
You guys got a comment about that, Mark, Dan?
I mean, I understand the question. I'm just not sure I see how that's relevant to what we're talking about. I mean, we don't, it's not something I can calc on the fly. I don't want to look at the plan and try to guess a number and have it wrong and have that somehow be an issue. But the volume of fill in any other project we've done has never been questioned, it's never been asked for. So at this point, I'm not sure what else we can provide on that level. If we calc the volume, I'm not sure what that's going to do other than give somebody a number.
Okay. All right, Will, did you say we could close or we don't have enough from Heritage?
No, we can with that specific condition on the permit, and
Okay.
that is actually, we don't even, in the past, we have written an additional finding, and then I was told that it's redundant, so we don't even need to edit the findings page. That is like a permit box.
Okay.
So yes, true.
All right, does somebody want to make a motion to close?
Yeah, we need to take public comment.
Oh, public comment. Sorry, I know that some of the people are here. Yep. Is there, I can't see anybody on my screen.
And we do have one in the room for public comment.
Okay, if they want to come to the, if they want to come to the microphone and identify yourself and your address.
Hi. I'm just going to adjust the microphone. Is that all right? Thanks. Hi, everybody. My name is Willa Arsenal. I'm speaking on behalf of the Nantucket Land and Water Council tonight. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge that the applicant has proven very willing to go back and make revisions to these plans, and we're very appreciative of that fact. And I have only gotten to see the plans, these newest revisions, since this morning, so I'm not as familiar with this newest site plan as I'd like to be, but it does seem like they've really tried hard to work within the comments given by the public and by the commission. But I want to emphasize that the need for these revisions, it confirms that the original proposal as submitted and the current proposal doesn't meet the performance standard of 3.02 B2, which again, the wording of is proposed projects shall not use, procedures that the commission determines change the flood protection function. So these mitigations clearly change the flood protection function, or are evidence that the flood protection function has been changed because we're now having to mitigate for it. By proposing this stormwater management, they're acknowledging that the project changed it. And that's important because it would trigger the need for a waiver. And a waiver, you can approve a waiver if a waiver is required, but it would really give you, as the commission, more leverage to require more information about this project or ask for an alternative analysis. And it, more importantly, procedurally would be really helpful in a case like this. They've been willing to make mitigations, but that might not always be the case in future projects. And so, though this applicant has been really forthcoming, that might not always be the case, and there's a procedural gap that you could address with a waiver, and it would set a good precedent for future projects if this is going to keep occurring in this area, especially. I think that's important. Again, I haven't gotten to spend as much time as I would have liked to with this site plan, but I see they've added more catchment basements or basins, and I assume that's what's accounting for this 29% raise in stormwater catching. I would like to see the calculations and see a little more information that's gone into that raise. But without a waiver, it's hard to request that. So I would really urge the commission to require a waiver in this case. It only behooves you at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, but I believe that the plan is the same plan. It's just with an awful lot more information that we asked for. Who else is, Mark, did you want to respond to that or wait till after the next person?
I can wait till after the next person.
Okay, who else is coming up to talk?
Hi. It's Natalie Kaufman, counsel for the abutters. Several
Can you
abutters.
identify the abutters?
Sure. We have the Benders, the Kinesis, and those those addresses I can find. Some are on Douglas Way, some are on Fintry Lane. And is that something I can submit afterwards?
Yep. Submit it
Okay.
to staff, so it's in the record.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
So through the chair, I also would thank the applicant for making these changes and being open to mitigation. I would echo things that Willis said and Commissioner Turcott. We're concerned about the volume of fill, and it just goes back to what I had brought up at the previous meeting, which is the cumulative impact, which is in the bylaw acknowledged that it's difficult to ascertain the cumulative impact, but the best way is to leave as much natural topography as possible. I think this project is an example of a large cumulative impact, and there's so much happening. The house is with outside your jurisdiction, but we have a garage, a pool, a cabana, a studio, a significant driveway. A lot is being done, and if you look, the AC units are just over the line, and the pool equipments are just over the line, and the patios and the decks are just over that 50-foot, some of these. And I understand that's technically permissible, but I think that all of these go to a cumulative impact in just a level of development that doesn't need to be done in such a delicate area. So the abutters would just ask you to consider that, and obviously they don't support a lot of this project, but they would ask that you put in as much protection and mitigation as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Will, do you have a comment about that one?
I actually have a comment about Willa's previously. I just wanted to jump in and clarify real quick, and I didn't get in quickly enough, but there were changes to the revised plan that was submitted beyond comments and stuff. I just wanted to make that clear for the record. That's all.
Okay. Mark?
Yes, I'd like to respond to Will Arsenal's comments. We do not acknowledge that there are adverse impacts. We do not acknowledge that this requires a waiver under the bylaw. We feel that the project as originally designed was compliant. We are proposing structures outside of the 50-foot buffer zone that are consistent with structures that have been approved on countless other projects on the island under the old regulations that this was filed under. None of those projects ever required a waiver for fill and retaining walls. Just this past March, we got an approval on Bassett Road for 8-foot retaining walls in spots with a significant amount of fill, and that was done in response to groundwater separation issues, and there was no waiver required there. We have never been tasked before with fill and retaining wall requiring a waiver under the bylaw. We do not feel that there are going to be adverse impacts to the wetland hydrology. We have included the infiltration systems and the stormwater capture as a response to requests from commissioners and abutters, not as an acknowledgement that we're having an adverse impact. That's all I'd like to say. Thank you.
Okay. Mike, are you comfortable with this?
Yeah, I just have one comment. I don't see anything reaching over the 50-foot. Even all the retaining walls are within the 50-foot.
Outside the 50-foot?
Or I'm sorry, outside the 50-foot. Am I missing something?
No, you're fine.
Mark or Dan?
Okay.
All structural components are outside the 50-foot. On the east side, there's some silt fence and some very low kind of fanning out grading that's inside the 50-foot, but all structural components are completely outside the 50-foot buffer zone as required under the regs.
Okay.
That's how I'm reading the plan. Thank you.
Joe?
I'm good.
Joe, are you comfortable?
Joe?
I'm neither comfortable nor uncomfortable, frankly.
Okay. Tim?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot, but I don't think, I think all of our requirements are met, and that's, that's what we have to go with. So I'm comfortable in that regard.
John?
I'm okay with it.
Okay. Somebody want to make a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Who was
Second.
that? Mike? And then Tim, or Mike and John? Okay. All those in favor? Mike?
Aye.
RJ?
Nay.
Was that a nay?
Correct.
Okay. Joe?
Nay.
Okay. Tim?
Aye.
Okay. John?
Aye.
Oh boy, and then it comes down to me. I'm okay. So that's 4-3. Will, that carries, correct?
4-2.
4-2. I thought there was a third one. No, I've
Nope,
got
we
two.
have we're
That's
down
right.
our chair.
I got it. I got
I'm
it.
not good at math, though. I get it.
I'm not either, because I can barely, you look like tiny little people, like ants on the screen on my side. And that's with that caveat on heritage.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Somebody want to go out and get Seth?
Oh, John got him. Thanks, John. Take a brief 3-minute reset.
Not going to take him that long to get down the thing.
All right, everybody. Thank you, Linda, for chairing for that. We'll move on in our agenda. We'll go to section B under notice of intent, no waiver required, post January 1st submissions. We have just one, which is Purcell at 32 Dukes Road, SE 483904. As a reminder, how we handle these, we ask the commissioners and or the public if they want to open it or not. If not, we will move to close. So commissioners, would anyone like to open this application for review? Okay. Any members of the public interested in opening this application for review? I got it. There's no one on there. Seeing not, is there a motion to close?
So moved.
Thank you, Mike. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, RJ. By roll call vote, Mike Mazzarelli,
Aye.
RJ Turcott,
Aye.
Joe Plandowski,
Aye.
Tim Brand,
Aye.
John Schaefer,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
Aye.
Seth Engelberg, aye. That carries unanimously. Now we'll move on to section C, notice of intent, waiver required for pre-January 1st submissions. Yes, Will.
Core rate just continued.
To May 22nd?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. So we'll continue SC 483759 till May 22nd. That takes us on in our agenda. We don't have
Wow.
anything in D or E, so we'll move on to section F, which is amended orders of conditions, waiver required, which we have one. That's the Nantucket Islands Land Bank, 48 South Cambridge Street, SE 48 3055. And this is represented by Liz Phelps. Liz, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can, and we can see you as well.
Great, thanks. My name is Liz Phelps. I'm representing Nantucket Islands Land Bank on this request for an amended order of conditions for our property known as Long Pond Landing. The property is currently improved with a parking area, walkways, a sitting area, and an elevated walkway to a pier on Long Pond. We have been informed that our GeoGrid crushed gravel walkway, sitting area, and parking lot surfaces are not in fact ADA compliant. So we are requesting this amended order of conditions to perform ADA upgrades at the site. We have collaborated with the Disability Commission to come up with this plan, which is provided. I did request a waiver for this, but I don't think a waiver is actually required, so I'm not going to go too much into the presentation unless anyone wants me to. So the only portion of structure that is within the 50-foot buffer to the BVW is a portion of the wood walkway going from the ADA parking spot to the existing elevated walkway to the pier. So I think this would qualify as a water dependent portion of the project. But if that interpretation is incorrect, I'm certainly will defer to you. But basically, the improvements are a concrete parking space within the existing parking lot, wood surface walkways to the existing sitting area, which would be refinished with a timber grade deck, flush to grade deck, and then a wood walkway from the ADA parking spot to the existing elevated walkway to the pier. Our understanding is that this order, which has an expiration date of May 29th, 2025, was extended by 2 years by the Mass Leads Act. So we are requesting an amended order under that premise. I'm happy to answer any questions anyone might have.
Thank you, Liz. Commissioners, any questions or comments? Is there any questions or comments from members of the public? Will, do we have everything we need to close?
Yes, we do.
Liz, would you like to close?
Yes, please.
Is there a motion to close?
So moved.
Thank you, Linda, and Mike
Mike
for
for
the
the
second. By roll call vote, Mike Mazzarelli,
Aye.
Archie Turcott,
Aye.
Joe Plandowski,
Aye.
Tim Brain,
Aye.
John Schaefer,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
Aye.
Seth Engelberg, aye. That carries unanimously. Thank you,
Thank you.
Liz.
Thank you so
And we'll
much.
move on in our agenda now to the public meeting. And we'll be going to orders of conditions or amended orders of conditions, of which well, did you guys close Three Star Farm?
Yes.
Would you like to discuss that? If so, I will leave again.
Has everybody had an opportunity to review that findings page? It was sent out quite a while ago, but
Just, did that include that heritage
Hold on, don't
comment?
say anything yet. If you're gonna discuss it, I'm gonna leave. So Linda, take over, please.
Okay. Well, just push your chair back.
I only have one comment, and Seth can decide, but it's going to be very logistical. You should just go to the door and come back.
You don't have to leave the room.
The only thing that I would have to change on that findings page would be the amended plan of record. So it's a new date and a revision to the plan,
Okay,
and that would be the one.
we just got, yeah.
So,
Would that also include the heritage part, that heritage comment that we wanted in here?
so that actually doesn't have to be on the
In here.
findings page because it's
Okay.
included in the actual order of conditions.
Actual order of conditions, okay.
Checkbox that they have to wait for whatever determination from Heritage.
Yeah.
We can also add it as an additional finding. I was
think it'd be more
educated at one
explicit.
point that it's redundant.
It may be redundant, but I think it's more explicit
Yeah.
in this case.
I'm fairly certain if we're gonna edit it, let me just open it up real quick so that I can put it up on the screen.
Okay.
And then I'll go get our honorable chair. You can see him. Perfect. You could also get a carrier pigeon of some sort.
Do you all see it down there? Because we don't see it up on the screen.
Oh yeah, I gotta share it, guys. Sorry about that. So I'm gonna say pursuant to, or actually no. Wow, I love Microsoft.
And submitted to staff.
Review is complete and this is what's redundant about it, is that basically like what I'm writing is the law that the conditions on their permit will be binding and part of this permit, but I'm just writing it.
Yep.
Okay, did that make sense? So NHESP review is ongoing, no work may commence until NHESP review is complete, submitted to staff. Conditions included in the. All right, so we've got that. We just need to add the date.
A new plan.
All right.
Yeah, there's a new date up there for the plan. Okay. Period. Period. Up there. Period. There you go.
So we do date hearing close, and then we fill out the last one at the end, but.
Yep.
Whoa. All right.
Give yourself some space there.
Hang on, hang on. Is this satisfactory?
Is everybody comfortable with this?
Huh.
Okay. Well, we have to make a motion to approve this, or we're just,
Yes, as amended, but I
Okay.
can't make that motion.
no, you can't.
Motion to approve as amended.
Okay, that was John.
Mike for the second.
Mike for the second. All those in favor, Mike?
Aye.
RJ, you're opposed, right?
Yep.
Okay, Joe, you're opposed?
Yes.
Okay, Tim?
Yes, aye.
Okay, John?
Aye.
And myself. Thank you. Go get fearless leader.
Commissioner Engelberg. Chair Engelberg. Chair, that was. You know, sorry that I said commissioner instead of chair. I called Morgan Nelson the shorebird monitor yesterday and not the coastal resources tech.
All right, thank you, Linda. So we'll move on in the agenda to now amended orders of conditions for waiver required. Section D, we have the Nantucket Islands Land Bank, 48 South Cambridge Street, SU 48, 3055. Will, please get that up on the screen.
Yep. What's up? Where's my cursor? There we go. This is, for you guys to discuss, but I think Liz brought up a good point that this may not require a waiver at all. But the waiver language is here. The other additions were the amendment date, plan of record. The order has been amended to include upgrades to existing walkways, parking area, and sitting areas, as well as the relevant waiver request, but I would like to.
Hang on,
Put
didn't we
ADA
skip
in
a whole
there.
section here under B? Purcell and Madron? We just skipped those.
Yes, you're right.
Oh, yeah.
We got to go back up to B.
We'll go back up to B in a second. Let's just do this
Okay.
while we're at it.
Okay.
So, you guys, I guess some discussion on whether we want the waiver or not, but the language is included as of right now.
So the discussion essentially relates to whether we think the wood path is water dependent or not. If we think it's not water dependent, it extends into the 25-foot buffer zone slightly, so it would need a waiver. What do commissioners think?
I've got my hand up. I don't know if
Linda,
you
go
can see
ahead.
it.
Yep. go ahead.
Handicap accessibility to access water is water dependent. I've been through this handicap thing before after 28 years on that commission. And that was their argument as well, is that it was water dependent because you can't get to the water legally under the AAB or the ADA. So that would be water dependent because you have to use it to get to the water. Wouldn't that make more sense?
Yes. Other commissioners?
Seth, Mr. Chairman, the boardwalk is, to get to the boardwalk, and then the boardwalk is in the water, so I don't see harm in adding the waiver.
Well,
Yeah,
To
RJ,
get,
go ahead.
go ahead.
well, if it's water dependent, it wouldn't need the waiver, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Only
okay.
projects that are not water dependent need
Okay, my bad, I'm sorry.
the waiver for the structural element. And so if we view this boardwalk, which is going to be at grade, or actually part of the structural element is below grade, as water dependent, then it doesn't need a waiver. Our decision is strictly to decide, is the wooden walkway water dependent or not, and then the waiver goes from there. Linda made her
Open
point.
for water dependent, yeah.
Other commissioners, does anyone see it in the opposite way? Okay, if not, then we'll say this is water dependent, and Will, you can delete the waiver.
That's the vibe I'm getting, huh?
Yep, everyone's good with that. So now, in reference to the actual conditions, does anyone have any additions or anything they want change about those conditions?
Does anybody turtle here?
Yeah, there is some people, the land bank did install one of the signs that says please don't.
Okay, if that was my only comment. Perfect.
So my comment relates to the ratio. Says DEP updated their guidelines. And I don't think 1-to-1 is allowed anymore. I know they already built it, but we're not changing that part, right?
No.
We're just,
Yeah.
yeah, we're just changing it, so that's fine.
Yeah, it would only be things written in bold, I'm sorry.
No worries. Okay. So I think we just delete the waiver and then add the permit overview changes. That's it.
So we've got the waiver out of our overview and the waiver language is gone.
Okay.
So,
That being said, is there a motion to issue this amended order of conditions as amended?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Linda. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mike. By roll call vote, Mike Mazzarelli,
Aye.
RJ Turcott,
Aye.
Joe Glandowski.
Aye.
Tim Brain.
Aye.
John Schaefer.
Aye.
Linda Williams.
Aye.
Seth Higginborg, aye. That carries unanimously. Thank you. So thank you, Linda. We do need to go back up to orders of condition, section B for no waiver required, because we did close 32 Dukes Road today. Do we have an order for that or no?
We do, and also there was one,
For Madron Lake, we closed last time.
so we do
Yep.
have that as
I
well.
don't, those weren't sent out, were they? But you can get them up on the screen.
I thought I sent them out yesterday, I'm sorry.
I think just the AOC was sent out, but put them up on the screen and we'll do it that way.
Apologies for that, folks.
So we'll start with Purcell, 32 Dukes Road, SC 483904. We'll put this up on the screen.
All right, fairly straightforward here. This was for a shed installation, buffer zone to BVW, no waiver, no heritage. We had conditions 18 and 19, and then lighting, plantings, and ag chemicals, because I think there were garden beds and whatnot, and some of these sheds got lights. A lot of these sheds got lights.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions, comments, or additions?
Nope.
If not, is there a motion to issue the order of conditions as drafted?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Linda. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Joe. By roll call vote, Mike Miserelli,
Aye.
RJ Turcott,
Aye.
Joe Planowski,
Aye.
Tim Brain,
Aye.
John Schaefer,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
Aye.
Seth Engelborg, aye. That carries unanimously. And we'll go on to Madron Lake LLC at 26 Monomoy Road, SC 483881. And Will, you can get this on the screen as well.
'26 Monomoy. Proposed regrading for cellar access. We're in the buffer zone to BVW and Coastal Bank, no waiver, non-NHESP. We had conditions 18 and 19, and that was it.
Okay, commissioners, questions, comments, additions? If not, is there a motion to issue the order of conditions as drafted?
So moved.
Paul
Second.
Paul,
Santos
I
has
see
his
Paul,
hand raised.
yes.
Oh.
Paul, we're in a public meeting. Do you have something for clarification purposes only? Paul, I'll recognize you at this point.
He's in.
That could be a rogue hand.
Yeah, he's unmuted, but.
Hello?
Yes, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Do you have something for clarification
Yeah, so
purposes?
the original order was for the grading for the cellar access. This amended order was for the retaining wall, the wood retaining wall and patio that Chloe presented at the last meeting.
Yes, I remember Chloe presenting it.
We may have
yes,
the
sir.
wrong file here. I could probably whip one up during our enforcement
You
discussions.
do
if that's
have
a
to
possibility.
issue this tonight,
Yeah,
so.
I can easily do that. I just need 5 minutes of idle time, so during enforcements,
Yeah.
if possible.
Okay, with respect, Mr. Santos, we're gonna just hold this off for now and we will come back to this at the end of the meeting tonight.
That is fine. Thank you.
Thank you as well. Okay, so we'll go on to requests for determination of applicability. We have two tonight that are delineation only and one for work requested. For delineation only, we'll begin with the Steamship Authority, 1 Steamboat Wharf. And who is presenting this?
If they don't have anybody, I got it, but I am not
Uh,
sure.
The name that's on the agenda is not on my list here, so Will, go ahead.
Is this the dolphin that fell over?
Yeah, this
Yes.
is very simple. So
Not
this
simple.
RDA was just for the emergency work to rescue the stranded dolphin off of the slip. So we have a slightly different code than we often use for this one because it will be given a -5 determination, which is that the work is, let me get the actual wording so I don't just make something up, but where'd you go? But basically, the work is exempt from having to submit because of a reason spelled out in the regulations, which is emergency work in this case, because we need the boat. So, -5, the area described in the request is subject to jurisdiction under the Act. Since the work described therein meets the requirements for the following exemption, which is 10.06 emergencies, no notice of intent is required.
Thank you. Would a commissioner like to make a motion to issue the request for determination of applicability with a -5 determination?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Linda. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mike. By roll call vote, Mike Miserelli,
Aye.
RJ Turcott,
Aye.
Joe Pondowski.
Aye.
Tim Brain,
Aye.
John Schaefer,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
Aye.
Seth Engelberg, aye. That carries unanimously. And we'll move on to Sankaty Head Golf Club, Inc. at 100 Sankaty Road, represented by Brian Madden. Brian, good evening.
Good evening. For the record, Brian Madden from LEC, representing Sankaty Head. The proposed RDA is just for confirmation of a total of 5 resource areas within the eastern portion of the property, or multiple properties, and I can review them. There are the A, B, C, F, G, and E wetlands going north-south. This is on the eastern portion of the property, proximate to Sankaty Road. The A, C, and E wetlands are isolated vegetated wetlands protected under the bylaw. The G and F series are a connected BVW that's bisected by Isabel's Way, which is off property. And then the B series IVW, which immediately abuts the bike path, is a small non-jurisdictional wetland with no buffer zones. It's only 342 square feet, a small little depression. And we are seeking confirmation of these wetland resource area boundaries.
Thank you, Brian. Will, have you been out to the site and do you have a determination for us?
Yes, I have. And I am recommending a positive 2A, which is that the resource area boundaries, the boundary delineations of the following resource areas described on the reference plans are confirmed as accurate. Therefore, the resource area boundaries confirmed in this determination are binding as to all decisions rendered pursuant to the Wetlands Protection Act and its regulations regarding such boundaries for as long as this determination is valid.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions or
remember
comments? If not, is there a motion to issue the request for determination of applicability with a positive 2A determination?
So moved.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, RJ and Linda for the second. By roll call vote, Mike Miserelli,
Aye.
RJ Turcott,
Aye.
Joe Pondowski.
Aye.
Tim Brain.
Aye.
John Schaefer.
Aye.
Linda Williams.
Aye.
Seth Engelberg, aye. That carries unanimously.
Thank you.
And I'm out of sorts today. We need to go back to orders of conditions because we need to deal with Nantucket Shire LLC at 30 Dukes Road, SC 48 3687. We simply need a motion to reissue this permit. Is there a motion
I'll
to
make,
that effect?
I'll make that motion. I was wondering what we were doing with
Thank you.
that. I'll make that
Linda,
motion.
is there a
Second.
and Mike for the second? By roll call vote, Mike Miserelli,
Aye.
RJ Turcott,
Aye.
Joe Planowski.
Aye.
Tim Brain.
Aye.
John Schaefer.
Aye.
Linda Williams.
Aye.
Seth Engelberg, aye. That carries unanimously. And now we'll go back to request for determination of applicability. For work requested, we have one, which is Nantucket Islands Land Bank, at 101 Hummock Pond Road and 13 Millbrook Road, represented by Liz Phelps.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Liz Phelps again, representing Nantucket Islands Land Bank. This RDA is for removing 4 discarded vehicles and some debris that's within the buffer to a BVW to the rear of the property. The property is operated as my grandfather's farm. There is a existing culvert that connects the 2 parcels. Basically, there's a ditch that separates the 2 parcels, and there's an existing culvert that goes over it. So we are requesting permission to remove the vehicles and debris by bringing a front end loader with a fork attachment to this area, picking up the cars and bringing them to a wrecker staged in the existing driveway. All the work would be within the buffer zone, no excavation would be required, and no cutting of vegetation. So happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Williams, please go ahead.
Just out of morbid curiosity, this is going on all over the island. It always has. That one is just, got to be decades old. Do you look at the VIN numbers to find out who owns these things?
We have not. We haven't tried to investigate, where the cars came from. We're just our goal right now is just to get them out of there.
Yeah.
The only reason
Some of
I'm
them might
saying
be
that,
so rusted that you can't even see it anymore.
and
But
see, but it's usually right on the dash in front of the driver's seat. But the reason why I'm saying that is that because I'm dealing with the same issue on another situation, and they're not allowing us to tow them until we make every effort to find out who owns those vehicles, even though they've been there for 20 years. You can see them on the aerials. But that's why I'm just saying you might want to check that with council.
oh, I'm sorry about that, Linda, but that's not really germane
I
to
just
our
a word to the
concern.
wise.
If they have problems, I'm sure they'll figure it out. But Will, have you been out to the site and do you have a recommendation for us?
I have, yes, I walked the site with Liz, and there are for sure some interesting old cars back there. I was recommending I never remember these codes, -2 and -3 determination for this one,
Okay.
which I can read if you need them.
I think we're all set. Commissioners, any questions or comments? If not, is there a motion to issue the request for determination of applicability with the determination of a -2 and -3?
So moved.
Second.
Mike and Linda for the second, by roll call vote. Mike Mazzarelli.
Aye.
RJ Turcotte.
Aye.
Joe Plendowski.
Aye.
Tim Brain.
Aye.
John Schaefer.
Aye.
Linda Williams.
Aye.
Seth Engelberg, aye. That carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you as well. And we'll move on. You're not ready for the other order, right, Will?
No, I'm basically gonna write that.
Okay, we'll move on to minor modifications. Tonight we have 2. The first is Nantucket Islands Land Bank at 19 Walwinet Road, SC 483636, represented by Liz Phelps. Liz, go ahead again.
Thank you. Liz Phelps again, representing Nantucket Islands Land Bank. This minor modification request is to allow the farmer at the property, which is Fogtown Farm, to apply feather meal and potassium sulfate to the berry field at the property. There's 2 existing fields at the property. One is lavender and one is berry. The farmer did soil testing at the beginning of the growing season, and the laboratory, based on the results, recommended adding nitrogen and potassium sulfate to the berry field. The farmers performed calculations for the amount needed, and that's included in the request, but I can answer any questions if anyone has them. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
my comment is just, since it was in our jurisdiction, it was a very responsible and well laid out soil test. So I'm fine with it, and thank you for the soil test.
Thank you.
Anyone else? If not, is there a motion to issue the minor modification?
So moved.
Thank you,
Second.
RJ. Thank you, Linda, for the second. By roll call vote, Mike Mizzarelli.
Aye.
RJ Turcott.
Aye.
Joe Plandowski.
Aye.
Tim Brain.
Aye.
John Schaefer.
Aye.
Linda Williams.
Aye.
Seth Eggenberg, aye. That carries unanimously.
Thank you.
And we'll move on to D. Guys, please don't do the side conversations. We'll move on to DJS Realty Trust at 11 Oak Hollow Lane, SC 48 38 34, represented by Don Bracken, if they're here, or if not, Will. Or if you're not ready, someone is in the attendees list.
Trying to write that
Ryan
amended order.
Maxwell is here for Bracken Engineering, if we could bring them over.
Oh, please.
Brian Madden.
Bring Ryan over right now. I think he's joining as a panelist.
Okay, you guys probably could have handled this one without me, but Ryan Maxwell with Bracken Engineering for the record. This original order of conditions was for the construction of a tiny house, and the minor mod request tonight is just to rotate that tiny house 180 degrees and pull it a little further away from the wetland.
Thank you, Ryan. Commissioners, any questions or comments? If not, is there a motion to issue the minor modification?
So moved.
Thank you,
Second.
Mike. Is there a second? Thank you, Linda, for the second. By roll call vote, Mike Mizzarelli.
Aye.
Archie Turcott.
Aye.
Joe Plandowski.
Aye.
Tim Rain.
Aye.
John Schaefer.
Aye.
Linda Williams.
Aye.
Seth Eggenberg, aye. That carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to certificates of compliance. We have 4 tonight. We'll start with Golden Sunshine Realty Trust at 100 Cliff Road. This was a NAN only, NAN 139 number. And Will, are you taking this for us? Or Ryan, are you taking this for us?
I don't have much more to add beyond the letter we submitted, but
Okay.
can answer any questions if needed.
Sounds good. Will, have you looked into this for us?
Yep. I've been there. Everything's in compliance, but I would continue the lighting condition, which is 20.
Okay. So, commissioners, any questions or comments? Is there a motion to issue the certificate of compliance with ongoing condition number 20?
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
Tim and Linda for the second by roll call vote. Mike Mizzarelli.
Aye.
Archie Turcott.
Aye.
Joe Plandowski.
Aye.
Tim Brain.
Aye.
John Schaefer.
Aye.
Linda Williams.
Aye.
Seth Eggenberg, aye. Carries unanimously. And now
Thank you.
Nantucket Islands Land Bank at 46 and 48 South Cambridge Street, SC 48 2871. Liz Phelps, would you like to say anything, or would you like Will to handle it?
I can say something unless Will prefers to, but
Go ahead.
Okay. So we're requesting a certificate of compliance, actually 2 certificates of compliance. This first one, they're both for Long Pond Landing.
Yes, we can take 2871 and 2938 together.
Okay, great, thank you. So the first one, both permits are expired. The first one is for demolishing the house and and abandoning the septic system, which was done obviously a while ago. So that work is complete. There's photographs in the submission. Happy to answer any questions if anyone has any on that. And then the second one is for the work that was done, the current parking lot, pathways and sitting area. That permit is also expired. And I apologize, but in the cover letter, I think I referred to it as SE 48 30 55, but it's actually SE 48 29 38. And that has also expired.
Thank you. Will, have you been out to the site and do you have a any information about whether the site's in compliance?
Sites are in compliance. I don't think it makes sense to continue. Sorry, I'm so far from the mic. Probably wasn't even picking me up. I don't think it made sense to continue any conditions for either of these because they're really all construction and project related. Like disturbances to the roadway from the project, blah, 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 blah.
Okay.
Portions of the path. So I think we're good.
That sounds good. Any questions or comments from commissioners? If not, is there a motion to issue the certificates of compliance for SC 48 2871 and SC 48 2938?
So moved.
Thank you, Mike.
Second.
Thank you, Linda, for the second. By roll call vote. What's up?
Sorry. Thought you were already done. I have that
By
amended
roll call
order
vote,
after.
Mike Mazzarelli,
Aye.
RJ Turcott,
Aye.
Joe Plandowski,
Aye.
Tim Brain,
Aye.
John Schaefer,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
Aye.
Seth Eggenberg, aye. That carries, those both carry unanimously. We have one more cert and then we'll go back to the order, Will. We have Friedman, 35 Pilgrim Road, SC 48 3896. I don't think Patricia Halstead is here, so Will, are you taking this?
I'll take it. This was really easy. We probably all remember this too. It was very recent. 35 Pilgrim was for the connection to town sewer at 35 Pilgrim. Can confirm a sewer line was put in the ground and there is a trench that was cut for the sewer line. I want to verify, I don't have it written down that there were any continuing conditions on here, and I don't think there would have been any. But where did I put it? Yeah, we only had 18, 19, which is what I thought. But
Okay.
that would be it. Site was in compliance.
Sounds good. Is there any questions or comments from commissioners? Is there a motion to issue the certificate of compliance with no ongoing conditions?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Thank you, Mike and Linda, for the second. By roll call vote, Mike Mazzarelli,
Aye.
RJ Turcott,
Aye.
Joe Plandowski,
Aye.
Tim Brain,
Aye.
John Schaefer,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
Aye.
Seth Eggenberg, aye. That carries unanimously. And for the third time today, we'll go back to orders of conditions to take up Madron Lake LLC at 26 Monomoy Road, SC 48 3881. Will please put the amended order up on the screen.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for your patience. So this was 26 Monomoy, simple amendment. We've got the plan of record here. The order has been amended to include construction of a retaining wall. I don't think there's any additional conditions we'd like to put on that, but obviously up for discussion. And that would be it.
Okay, questions, comments, additions from commissioners? If not, is there a motion to issue the amended order of conditions as amended?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Linda. Is there a second? Thank you, Tim. By roll call vote, Mike Mazzarelli,
Aye.
RJ Turcott,
Aye.
Joe Plandowski.
Aye.
Tim Brain,
Aye.
John Schaefer,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
Aye.
Seth Eggenberg, aye. That carries unanimously. Thank you all. We have no extension requests tonight. So we'll move on to other business. The first is minutes. We have 4 sets of minutes to approve. Those are the January 23rd, March 6th, March 12th, and March 20th, 2025 minutes. Commissioners, any questions, comments, additions to those sets of minutes?
Almost current.
Yes, thank you to all the staff who helped put those together. Is there a motion to approve those 4 sets of minutes?
So moved,
Motion to
Mr. Chairman.
approve.
I'll second.
Take John for the motion and Linda for the second by roll call vote. Mike Mazzarelli,
Aye.
RJ Turcott,
Aye.
Joe Plandowski.
Aye.
Tim Brain,
Aye.
John Schaefer,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
Aye.
Seth Eggenberg, aye. That carries unanimously. And let's see, I don't believe we have any monitoring reports tonight, so we'll go to committee reports. We'll start with CRAC. Do you have anything for us?
Nothing new. Thank you.
Okay. CPC
Nothing new.
and PNEDC
Nothing new.
and the harbor plan.
Wow. We are almost finished going through it and waiting for another draft that we can actually get closer to approval, but we've gone through almost all the sections.
Thank you. So, any commissioners' comments tonight?
Another good meeting, Mr. Chairman.
We're not done. We got quite a bit more stuff to discuss, but thank you. Yes, Commissioner Turcott.
Or you want to go first? We making a list for the next procedurals and regs update meeting, Will? You got your notepad
I mean,
for the fall?
I think we are scheduling another one of those meetings, but I think that would be up to the chair. I don't know if,
No, we already decided on this. We decided that there would be a scheduling poll sent out,
which is
which hasn't
in
been sent out.
process.
So once
because, yeah, we're not there yet.
once that's sent out, we'll get that meeting scheduled, and then commissioners can send individually, not collectively, not reply all, nothing like that, individually, their topics that they want to talk to Will, who will compile the packet for us and resend it out.
Got it.
I've got to get.
John, go ahead. No, yeah, once we get the poll, we'll choose the date, and then you can get your topics to Will at that time.
I'm nailing down 2 dates before I give you guys slews of dates. So there's some waiting periods involved.
Okay. Any other commissioners' comments? Seeing not, we'll move on to enforcement actions. We have two listed on our agenda tonight. Before we get to either, Will, is there any newer emerging ones that we need to talk about that are not listed?
Not as of right now, but we have plenty to focus on tonight with the 2 we've got.
Okay, so we'll begin with the enforcement action related to 14 Plover Lane. And Will, would you like to give an update, or do you want me to give an update?
I'll give a quick update.
Go ahead.
And obviously, anything anybody'd like to say, go right ahead.
Council
but-
is here as well, if you didn't see it.
Yes, I should mention that Attorney George Pucci, who represents the town as the town council, is here to advise us on matters related to this application. Or not application, this enforcement action.
And pretty much the only update that I would give right now, I did meet Brian Madden on site yesterday, and delivery of the plant material and commencement of planting activities did take place yesterday. I think that they probably finished the work yesterday, just judging by what I saw on site. Everything looked pretty good. I don't know if anybody's been by recently, but it was, looking for the right word here, but it was kind of nice to see that in a lot of the disturbed area, there were some desirable wetland plants coming back. Certainly some aggressive things that you don't want coming back, but they are on top of it and have a plan. And Brian kind of walked me through how things are going and where they're planning to go. I was pretty happy to see the work yesterday, and they've also hired a very professional outfit. So that's my kind of on the ground from yesterday. I don't know if Seth wants to talk more about this, but we have council here today to have a discussion about fines, anything related to fines. So what can we do? What do we want to do? I'm not sure if George has something.
Yeah, before we get to that, there's a few
prepared,
things
but-
that we should talk about first, but we will have that discussion. So thank you for the update related to the planting done on site. We as a commission were notified of that. It's also come to my attention that, so there's a couple parallel processes here. We required the planting through the existing enforcement order, and we also required a notice of intent to be submitted to continue dealing with the work on site. It's my understanding that a notice of intent is done and has been submitted to this commission, but it did not meet the filing deadline for this meeting, but does meet the filing deadline for the May 22nd meeting. So we'll get that posted and discussed at the May 22nd meeting. And if you have any questions about that, it did get put in our packet, but if you have any questions about that notice of intent, please hold them until it's actually opened at the May 22nd meeting. It's not germane to the discussion right now because it's not open before this commission. Tonight, we solely need to talk about the planting activities that happened already through the enforcement order, if any discussion is warranted. The finding structure, if we choose to go forward with that, and any additional amendments we need to or wish to make to the enforcement order to continue this process. So, commissioners, at this point, do you have any general questions? Yes, Mike, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A question probably for Brian. I just, while we have the opportunity to have you here, can you give us an update on the planting progress? And also, I'm curious if you've undertaken any deer protection and if the irrigation is being done or is in process for the plants that are in the ground, temporary irrigation, of course.
Mr. Madden, feel free to speak on that.
Thank you. For the record, Brian Madden, representing the applicant. Yeah, so the plantings were completed today along with preliminary invasive species management work. That was specific to 14 Plover Lane. Irrigation was being set up. All plantings received a heavy dosing of watering immediately after planting, and Waterworks is in the process of setting up the temporary irrigation system. As it relates to the temporary deer fencing, that has not yet fully been completed. It's in progress. We're endeavoring to encapsulate the full planting areas to protect the recently installed plantings.
Thank you, Brian.
Any other questions for Brian regarding the planting? Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, hi, Brian. Has there been any more development of the abutters? Sorry, has there been any more back and forth with the abutters about maybe doing some restoration on their land too? Or is that still in discussion?
No plantings has occurred on the abutting properties. I see Attorney Bailey has his hand raised, and I think probably Glenn Wood is in the other room and can be brought in as necessary. So all the plantings that we had proposed on the approved restoration plan, the total counts, have all been installed now on 14 Plover Lane. So it is beefed up a little bit more so on 14 Plover. And that's where everything currently stands.
Thank you.
Thank you. Will, if we want, or we brought Glenn Wood over. Glenn, if you would like to add anything to that, you're welcome to at this time.
Good evening, everyone. Glenn Wood for the property owner. Mr. Bailey and myself continue to be in discussions to accomplish this. We have all the plantings that are planned to be placed at these two properties. They're on our client's property and available to be planted. But as yet, we haven't reached a final agreement on full terms here. And so that did not get accomplished by today. But the hope is still on surely our end that we can reach an accord and get that done in the immediate near term. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wood. Recognizing that this is a public meeting, in my discretion, I will allow for public comment, but at this time, we'll restrict public comment to items specifically related to the planting under the enforcement order. Mr. Bailey, if you have a comment about that, please go ahead. If not, wait till later.
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and specifically on the planting. The enforcement order issued by this commission directed the owner of 14 Plover to restore plantings that were taken out, without any authority, not only on 14 Plover, but also on my client's properties at 12 and 16 Plover. He has refused to do that. The reason he has refused to do that is because he's trying to leverage his obligation to make those plantings under this enforcement order into my clients giving him a complete release. Mr. Wood is spinning this in a very favorable manner for his client. He is correct. We were in discussions yesterday, today, but at every minute, and this goes back a month, our insistence has been, yes, you can put those plantings in, but we need a certificate of insurance. We need to meet you on the site to make sure that they're done properly. And no, we are not going to waive claims for trespass, property damage, and most specifically for the notice of intent just got filed. There are several things under the notice of intent that my clients are very interested in making sure happen, including watering, restoration, and invasive species mitigation. So we are entirely unsatisfied. We think, to take it a step further, respectfully, Mr. Chair, when we were here the last time, you specifically said how the lighting at 14 Plover is completely non-compliant with the Nantucket requirements. Has anything been done with that? No. Has the fence that was installed illegally anything been done with that? Has that been removed? No. This owner is not complying with what you are directing him to do. And I encourage you to try and do what you can to make him do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. In reference to those two questions, Mr. Madden, is there any update related to the fencing or lighting?
Yeah, I don't believe there's been any action yet on the lighting. As it relates to the fencing, we would like to temporarily keep that deer fencing to protect the plantings that were just installed. It would seem, redundant to take it down only to have additional deer fencing installed immediately in its place. So it was open to allow access through for the planting activity, but we would respectfully like to keep that in place for the time being. Again, what we are proposing is to remove that deer fencing once the plantings are established, and then a split rail fence will be installed along the landward limits of the development footprint, transitioning to the restoration areas, the permanent demarcation between the naturalized areas and the developed areas. But again, the intent and hope would be to utilize that deer fencing for the time being for the plantings.
Thank you, Mr. Madden. So let's take these things one at a time, starting with the lighting, because it seems more straightforward. So I agree with what Mr. Bailey said. I did call the lighting completely non-compliant with the Nantucket code. And even the applicant several times of this process, or the violator, the violator's representative is not an applicant, has agreed to that. So I think at this point, we should amend the enforcement order to set a specified date by which that lighting needs to be removed. Commissioners, thoughts on that? Yes, Mike, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with all that, and we can't be the only lighting police that are out there. There's got to be some other people that would be notified, right?
Yes,
That would
the town has lighting enforcement. Yes, and Will, have they been notified?
I'm not sure that Marcus has been notified on this, but I am happy to make sure that. My mic's off, I'm sorry. Marcus has not been notified by me. I'm happy to make that happen ASAP.
Yes, we will direct the Concom staff to notify the lighting enforcement officer ASAP. And at the same time, I still think we should move forward with a motion to amend the enforcement order to require that lighting be removed by a specific date. So who has thoughts on what a reasonable timeline is? Okay,
Maybe my next meeting, well, we're going to be talking about it anyways, right?
okay. Anybody else?
I'll go along with that. I find it hard that much gets done in 2 weeks. If we wanted to say 30 days, and I'm not trying to cut any slack there, but just trying to be realistic with how the zone, unless I'm missing something in the process.
We could just
Yeah,
take
I
the
mean,
lights out.
Respectfully, we allowed them all this time since the last meeting and this meeting to take it down. You guys want to say 30 days, you can say 30 days, but Commissioner Williams, go ahead.
Just as a side, I've dealt with this lighting thing before with Marcus. He won't go out there at night. So, and the dark skies thing takes place at night. The violations take place at night. The only time anybody's been able to get him to do anything, and particularly in this case, is if you take a picture of it at night and take it to him. And then he will send a violation letter. The quickest way to fix it under the dark skies is to put shields on them, make sure they're downlit, and reduce the lumens amount, because there's a specified maximum of lumens and there's a specified got to be downlit. So there's a couple of things under the dark skies. All they have to do is look it up and fix it.
Thank you.
They don't have to take them out.
I don't think we need to delve into this too deeply, and I guess we don't even need to say that it needs to be removed. We just need to say it needs to come into compliance with the town of Nantucket code for outdoor lighting by a certain date. They can figure out how that happens. That's up to them. So Will, go ahead.
It's not that important, but I was just gonna say, nobody has to go out at night. You can see what direction the bulb is pointing in. And
Yeah.
you can, if you want to get real wild, you can read the lumens on the bulb. Nobody needs to go out at nighttime.
So commissioners, 2 dates have been put before you. The first is May 22nd. The second is 30 days. We'd have to calculate what that date is. Those dates are to amend this enforcement order to require that all lighting on site become compliant with the town
Mr.
code.
Chairman?
Yes, Mike, go ahead.
I said 30 days, but however, the 28 days, if that falls on our meeting, would be fine with me.
And can I just make one clarifying point as it relates to
Yes.
the notice? Thank you. So we filed the notice on Tuesday. The filing deadline for the May 22nd date was May 1st, so we will be heard on June 5th.
What?
Yes, you are correct. This will be heard on June 5th. Thank you for that clarification.
So let's make it that
So
date.
So somebody like to make a motion to amend the enforcement order to require all lighting on site come into compliance with the town code prior to June 5th, 2025.
Motion
Mr.
to
Chairman.
amend the enforcement order to come into compliance with the Nantucket Lighting Code on or before
second that.
June 5th.
Thank you, John, and thank you for Linda for the second by roll call vote. Mike Misrelli.
Aye.
Arthur Turcott.
Aye.
Joe Plandowski.
Aye.
Tim Brain.
Aye.
John Schaefer.
Aye.
Linda Williams.
Aye.
Seth Engelberg, aye. That carries unanimously. We'll get that EO amended. So the next point that was raised is regarding the deer fencing, which is also installed without benefit of permit. And Mr. Bailey made a case as to why he believes that should be removed. Mr. Madden made a case as to why he believes that should stay. And I know we've talked about deer protection generally for the new plantings on the site. So commissioners, how do you feel about this topic? Thank you, Joe. Just say that into the mic.
The fencing should stay for some period of time until whatever's been planted is going to survive.
Thank you. Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't see that fencing as effective at all. It's running along the property line at about 6 feet. The deer could jump it easily. And my concern with the deer protection has consistently been to protect individual plants. I don't see that fence is beneficial, and I think it should come down.
Yeah, Joe, go ahead.
If the fence is 6 feet, that's a waste. Might as well not have a fence. It's got to be 7, preferably 8 feet for the deer around here.
Thank you, Joe. Linda, go ahead.
Yeah, it's got to be 8 feet, but if it all comes down, that stuff is toast. Those deer are eating even pitch pines. They'll just wipe it all out again, and I don't think anybody wants that. But if they're going to go through the exercise of it, then they should have an 8-foot fence, not a 6-foot fence. It's useless.
So we can require alternate deer protection, but, so here's the other thing, in my opinion, about this fence. I mean, it's on one side of the rectangle, basically. The deer can pass on the other 3 sides, unless you're gonna fence the whole property lot line, which obviously we're not gonna allow from this commission, given the impacts of that. We should be moving towards individual plant protection, and possibly other techniques, tools and techniques that exist that haven't been employed that often on Nantucket. So commissioners, thoughts on that?
Well, Mr. Madden mentioned that they have some sort of deer fencing involved in their thing. Why don't we give them a chance to do that and see how that works out? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, we can't really talk about what's proposed for the NOI, but it's been suggested in previous enforcement order hearings that the applicant intends to install protection of plants. But Mr. Madden, go ahead.
So the intent would be we have these clusters of these planting areas. The intent would be to encircle those areas with additional deer fencing. Within the wetland and also within the buffer zone areas. We have 153 shrubs and 22 trees. They are clustered, pretty tightly in some areas that individual deer fencing is just not practical. We do have these distinct clusters and planting areas that should be encapsulated.
Thank you, Mr. Madden. I said individual, but that's not actually what I meant. I meant not property lot line wide protection, but I think the cluster model for some areas is totally reasonable. Yes, Will, go ahead.
I figured I would just add super quick perspective. On the one area where there is existing deer fencing of like basically the backyard of that house, it does, I can't remember if I was just there yesterday, but I think it may just be the back 3 sides, but I'm pretty sure that what's there is enclosing a big chunk of the plantings that are behind the house. So I'm not trying to sway anybody really, but if it's an interim protection sort of thing, 6 feet ain't perfect, but it's helpful in Will's opinion. And if it's not a permanent situation, it's sort of potentially achieving some of the goal. So that's just how I felt about it, seeing it yesterday. Not necessarily the word of God, but.
Yeah, I mean, I think calling it deer fence is not accurate. It's privacy fence that has basically been installed. And I think it's repetitive and that we should move to have it removed and appropriate species-specific deterrents be actually installed. So if people wish to do that, we could take a motion to have that done also by a specific timeline. Probably makes sense to follow the same timeline as the lighting, which would be June 5th, but I am open to alternate dates if any commissioners wish to discuss those. Okay, would somebody like to make a motion to require the existing fence that was placed on site without benefit of a permit to be removed by June 5th, 2025?
Motion to have the unpermitted fence removed by June 5th, 2025.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Tim. By roll call vote. Oh, sorry. The motion needs to be a motion to amend the enforcement order to allow for that, so.
Motion to amend the enforcement order to remove the unpermitted deer fence or unpermitted fence by June 5th, 2025.
Thank you, Mike, for your motion, and Tim, do you still wish a second?
Second.
Okay, now, by roll call vote, Mike Mazzarelli,
Aye.
Audrey Turcott,
Aye.
Joe Plotnowski.
Aye.
Tim Brain.
Aye.
John Schaefer,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
Aye.
Seth Engelberg, aye. That carries unanimously. While we're still on the topic of planting specific items only, I'll recognize other members of the public. Mr. Kale, I see your hand. If you have a comment specifically related to the plantings, go ahead.
I do, and thank you, Mr. Chair, and committee. My biggest concern at this point is that I don't think there's enough planting along the Walwinet Road. You can see the night light from the Walwinet Road at nighttime, and as well as privacy. He's wiped out the privacy for both neighbors. I don't think there's enough planting along the property lines. And I am glad that you are reviewing a notice of intent because I question his sincerity on getting this project done completely and properly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At least in my opinion, and I believe it's been represented by this commission before, that the planting done initially under this enforcement order was a first step, and that the notice of intent will cover any additional plantings, monitoring, replacement, et cetera, as necessary. Doug Delaney, do you have some comment related specifically to the planting?
Yes, I do. It's Doug Delaney, 16 Plover, direct to butter. I just wanted to comment on Dan Bailey's comments earlier that they're accurate, and just to let everybody know that this has been a complete circus. We've approved plantings, in fact, much smaller plantings than I would have done if I was doing it myself to replace what was taken down. And we were told back and forth, we'll do it, we won't do it, we'll do it, we won't do it. Up until, in fact, yesterday at 10 o'clock, they were going to do it. At 11 o'clock, they weren't going to do it. We're sending, people back and forth to meet them, have not told them any time that they couldn't be there because we've been trying to go out of our way to be accommodating and get this done. And it just hasn't happened. So it's obviously very disappointing. But I don't know where we go from here as far as getting this done, but it's my understanding that they have an enforcement order to plant on the entire area that they took down, which was on the Delaney property and the Wagner property as well. And that's just been completely ignored. So I just thought it important for the commission to know. And I'd also like to thank the commission for being, all over this thing and taking this super seriously. We do appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you. Yes. When enforcement orders are issued, they require complete restoration of all activities that were done without a permit. So ultimately, planting needs to happen on the other parcels that are not 14 Plover Lane to deal with that violation. It's the understanding of this commission that the abutters and the violator and their attorneys have been negotiating to figure out how that could happen in an amicable way. And perhaps we've reached a point where there isn't an amicable way. And we do have, some alternatives to require that. Some of them might get a little complicated. So, but we do have those options before us at the commission. I would say though that, the Wagners and the Delaney's and their attorneys, I probably advise them that they have other avenues outside of this commission to deal with the, violations that took place. If this commission, if the resources within this commission aren't suitable, in order to require the plantings to happen, let's say on 16 Plover Lane, we would probably have to amend our enforcement order to include 16 Plover Lane, and to actually include the property owners of 16 Plover Lane as a violator as well. I'm not sure you want that. So I definitely don't think you want that. I mean, I'm not in your shoes, and I'm not in the Wagner's shoes as well. I don't think anybody wants that. So I think it's in your interest to hope to find a way to work with the 14 Plover Lane violator and representatives and attorneys to figure out how they're going to plant on your site. We're not required to tell you to let them do anything. If you don't want to release liability, if you don't want to, allow access to certain area, that's all things that are way outside the Concom's purview. That's up to you to figure out on your own scale. But that's kind of where we're at right now. Commissioners, any comments on that, or does any representatives of the violator or the abutters wish to comment on that? Okay. All right. So I believe we have introduced the upcoming date for the notice of intent, and we'll be following along in that process. Believe we've talked about the planting that's been done, and we've amended this enforcement order to deal with the lighting and the fence. The last issue, yes, Will, go ahead.
I need to clarify for myself because I tried to do two things at once, but we want to amend the EO to remove the fence by when?
June 5th.
June 5th.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was it.
And the lighting to come into compliance by June 5th as well. Mr. Madden, go ahead.
Thank you. So just for clarification, we are authorized to implement temporary deer fencing prior to the June 5th, correct?
Yes.
Okay. But the existing that we have is not adequate enough.
No, the existing 6-foot fence that's labeled as a deer fence but doesn't functionally act as a deer fence, it needs to be removed.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yes. Okay. So commissioners, unless there's anything else on either of those items, the last item, yeah, Will, go
Can I
ahead.
ask a question?
Go.
I could be remembering this completely wrong, but I'm getting stuck on thinking about taking something out to put it back in. I'm pretty sure this was a wire fence and they could somehow add more height to it. I don't want to get crazy here, but it was just a thought I had. It also may not be a wire fence, but for some reason I'm remembering it being roll out metal wire on posts just yesterday, but
Yeah, it's post and wire, but I really think the location of it isn't relevant to actually protect what the plantings and resources are, so. If anybody disagrees, we can change our minds, but it's put in a place that is meant to demarcate a line. Well, I can't say why it was initially put in because I wasn't there, but if you look at the justification for it, it does not appear to be legitimately for wildlife protection.
I'm sorry, Seth, I guess I should be clear. I'm in no way saying that this is some perfectly designed deer fence. I mean for a temporary, without talking about whatever upcoming NOI, but in my mind, some sort of temporary situation. But if we're able to get it out and have them install something, as long as it makes sense, but
Okay, I think we're gonna go for that. Mr. Madden, please make a comment.
Thank you again. I, I think we have the ability to modify the existing fence. You know, I think some of the wood posts that were installed are fine, and we could work off of that and make some modifications thereof and be more inclusive in the protection area in addition to height. So I guess just for clarification, are we looking for more of a modification to the existing fencing to ensure that it's functioning for deer protection, as opposed to wholesale removal and then just reinstalling something that's just going to create more disturbance?
I think we're gonna keep our enforcement order as amended to require wholesale removal at this time. But as we just amended this enforcement order, it could be amended again if needed. So if you wish to bring a plan for modifying that fence to the commission for the May 22nd meeting, we'll review it and see if we think it makes sense.
Thank you.
Yes, Mike, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with you that the fence has some other, it appears to have some other purpose just running along the property line. But Brian, I was going to say, I mean, it's fine by me if they reutilize some of that fence to do individual deer protection planting. But
yeah,
I agree with Seth that the fence is just not doing much as is to protect the resource area.
Yeah, Mr. Madden, if you wish to do that, please submit a written letter and a plan to the May 22nd meeting, and we'll take it under advisement.
Understood. Thanks for the clarification and the feedback, everyone.
Okay. So at this time, there remains one issue that we need to discuss, which is potential fines. We have town council with us tonight, Attorney George Pucci. Attorney Pucci, good evening. How are you?
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I'm doing very well, thank you.
Would you like to give an overview on your legal opinion as to whether fines or what level of fining would be legally allowed in this case?
Yes, I reviewed, apparently there was a letter that was sent to you previously from under town council's letterhead that we apologize for that. That was not reviewed by a shareholder. It was not reviewed by me. I agree with certain things on it, but with the limited scope that it addressed. But I definitely do not agree and want to clarify for you tonight that that is not town council's opinion on the enforcement issues before you. And just to clarify that issue, you know, the general sentiment addressed in Attorney Weisscheidt's letter to you about attempting to resolve enforcement issues cooperatively because these are your friends and neighbors that you're dealing with. That's a valid sentiment, and it is applied by good conservation commissions across the Commonwealth. And also the sentiment that the ticketing procedure, the non-criminal disposition procedure, that's a very cumbersome procedure, and it's difficult to follow the letter of every single requirement of that with regard to ticketing procedure, and then having a prosecutor pursue that and collect fines in that manner. Very cumbersome. So without saying that something came to you in clear error from our office, I just want to clarify that it does not address the scope of options for penalties and enforcement authority that you have in your discretionary authority as the commission. You know, a clear-cutting situation like this without notice is obviously a matter of great concern, and it's a matter of great public interest and something that commissions properly take very seriously. So you do have options beyond the scope of what Attorney Weisscheidt had previously reported to you. You know, one thing that, so a couple of issues I wanted to clarify with you, and not to pose a question in response to a question, but I've never met with you on this matter, and I just came to it. I reviewed the materials in preparation for a meeting with you tonight. I was unclear as to what types of penalties you were contemplating in terms of the amount. And one thing I would note that I just happened to notice, I know that the notice of intent is not before you tonight, but the property owner did submit a filing fee to you, which you have a very unique and fee provision in your regulations now that have a bylaw fee of 10 times the normal amount for an enforcement and after the fact enforcement related notice of intent. And I noticed in the materials that the property owner and the applicant did submit that penalty amount to you, that $2,000, which is, I don't know who came up with it for the town or for the commission, but it's pretty innovative. And I would note that the applicant paid that, and that would clearly be a penalty. And I'm not saying that is necessarily the scope of something that you should accept, but if you are contemplating penalties beyond that, I would definitely recommend that you take that amount into consideration, when you're making that type of determination, that penalty amount has been paid to the commission with the notice of intent for this after the fact filing. So just wanted to note that, just as a practical matter, again, there are options, and hopefully you don't end up in a court action that you're seeking to, collect penalties that are contested. I would imagine that you're not going to be unreasonable in terms of the assessment that you come up with that you think is an appropriate amount for a penalty. And hopefully we would be able to work that out with the property owner by agreement short of a lawsuit. But just in terms of, unauthorized work in a jurisdictional area, there's a $25,000 penalty right under the Wetlands Protection Act that can be pursued in a civil action for a civil penalty in that amount. You would need authorization from the select board, to authorize us to proceed with such an action. But I've never seen the select board deny a request from the commission before. So without getting into the gambit of all the options that are available to you, I just want to say that you do have options available. I think that you do want to have a discussion about what you think would be an appropriate amount in this instance, and then we go from there. I can help you craft an order. I can give you a further opinion on it. We can address it at the next meeting, however you want to deal with it. But this is the first time I've met with you on this, so I just kind of wanted to give you that general overview.
Thank you, George. I'll respond to two of your points first, and then we'll go to the commissioners. So I agree wholeheartedly that the role of enforcements, first and foremost, is to mitigate, restore, and repair damages done by violations, and that good commissions should endeavor to treat the violator and their representatives with respect and endeavor to find a way to amicably solve the situation. The part where I maybe disagree is, given egregious violations such as this one, I think that that fines or other recourse are necessary as well to rectify the situation that was done. As to your point about the filing fee, it is an innovative filing fee, and I think it's the first time it's been used because this has come into place just on January 1st of 2025. It was voted on as part of our regulatory update to require enforcement-related filing actions to be have a fee of 10 times the normal filing fee. That fee schedule discussion was a result of many discussions during our regulatory update meetings. It involved Jeff looking into resources from MACC and other towns who had fee structures like this. It involved some comments that I had made and other past commissioners who are not on the board at this point. And part of the reason for doing those filing fees is because there was a past history of finding it hard to assess fines under the non-criminal disposition, as Attorney Pucci has represented. And there seems to be a discrepancy. I'm going to specifically ask you a question on this, but there seems to be a discrepancy between what is listed as the fining amount under the bylaw and what is actually authorized by the select board. It's my understanding that the bylaw allows fines of up to $300 per violation per day to be issued, but we have another memo from your office in the past saying that the select board actually set a $50 per day fining limit. Is there any truth to that or not? Because to get back to your original point, the original fines that we discussed in our hearings this winter were to begin at the day that the violation was discovered, and to assess the $300 a day fine for the violation up until the date that the restoration order was submitted. So it wouldn't continue to today. It would continue until that essentially first step was taken to know that we're really sure that the violator's representative is willing to engage in this process. We talked about that because some people said, oh, right when they engage, you should stop fining. Right when they hire a consultant or issue a letter saying they're serious about this, you should stop fining. But we took that issuance, or that submission, I should say, of a solid restoration plan as a true first step that this work was going to happen and the property was going to be restored. So that's what the initial fine set out to do. And Attorney Pucci, I'll take your thoughts on that at this time.
Yeah, on the memo about select board setting a different cap, I would have to review that, Seth. I'll be honest. Again, this is the first time I'm meeting with you on this and looking at the issues. I've been going under the assumption you have the typical $300 maximum per day fee. Where the problem comes in, and I think you're agreeing with what I'm saying on this, and this is what I think Attorney Weishai was trying to express, that whatever that cap is, whether it's what you said under a select board, I don't know how they would be able to override the $300, but assuming it's $300 a day, where the complication comes in, it's more in the ticketing procedure, because your local regulations can provide one thing, but then the state statute itself is very cumbersome about how you're really supposed to do it. You're supposed to have an enforcing, I forget what they call it, it's not a police prosecutor, but it's sort of a enforcing authority, and it falls under, whoever you designate to do it. They have to do it daily. They provide it to the owner. It's quite cumbersome. And what can end up happening is you end up in a district court with a clerk magistrate that has an overloaded docket, including criminal matters, and he or she ends up with a civil penalty, a non-criminal disposition case involving a land use issue. And it's not the forum to address these types of issues. Let's put it that way. So I've always been sort of negative about the ticketing procedure and the non-criminal disposition. What I look more to would be a civil penalty type of scenario. I don't know if anybody's done the calculation, because again, you want to be reasonable about what you're doing. If you think it's an egregious situation and you think that a penalty is called for beyond the penalty provided in that 10 times the filing fee amount, which I appreciate you giving me the history on that. That sounded like it was quite a bit of work to craft that. There is a modicum of good faith that the property owner has demonstrated to you by paying that. without saying that this is an invalid regulation and we're going to challenge it. They did pay it without any protest or with a reservation of rights or anything like that. So I think what you'd want to do is you look at the totality of the circumstances and come up, have a consensus about what you would think would be a reasonable penalty to assess in this case. And then we talk about, I can assist in crafting an order for that. So that's where I think you would have the most fruit for your discussion to come up with a dollar amount of what you think would be an appropriate penalty. And then let's pursue that for the commission if that's what your goal is.
Yeah, I'll take Commissioner's comments in a second. Thank you, George. We did do the math. Will probably has the exact number for us, but I think it was in the ballpark of $14,000, $11,000, somewhere between $10,000 and $15,000. And we did discuss originally some justification for that. Even with the restoration plantings that are going forward, the value of the mature trees and soil health and air and water quality that was damaged by the violation. It's hard to put monetary values on ecosystem services. I noticed because I tried to take a bunch of resource economics classes in college and found it very frustrating. But the reality is there are ways to put values on well-known services like this, and it far exceeds $15,000. So we talked about, using the $300 a day benchmark as a way to get at that. It sounds like we probably had a better avenue before us with a civil penalty anyways, so we probably should have just started there, but acknowledging that you weren't there, we worked with the information we had. We'll take Commissioner's comments at this point, but I think it makes sense. Obviously, George has some information on this history and clearly has a lot to review. I think it makes sense for him to review the meeting minutes and videos, review the past memos that I'm talking about, look into this a little bit more, and to supply us a memo with options before us. But at this point, commissioners who would like to comment? John, go ahead.
So I think for me, as a respectful commission, we need to, before we come up with an amount, determine what is the goal of this fine. Is it to get them to restore the resource area, or is it just to punish them? Punish them because it was such an egregious violation, which I don't think is the place we want to go with fines. I think we want to ensure that they comply with our enforcement order and, do what we're asking them to do, and so each case is going to be different. But before we just say, oh, it's $300 a day, blah, 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 we need to figure out what is our goal here. And that's my opinion anyways.
Yep, other commissioners? Joe, go ahead.
I have not been a supporter of fines and probably will continue to be a non-supporter. And I say that, and that's for somebody who's a cooperative violator. For a non-cooperative violator, that's a whole different ballgame. But somebody who's cooperative, I would say, look, we need either more trees or more shrubs or whatever. And the leverage we have, frankly, is we can either impose a fine or we can get these other things added into the environment that was damaged. The problem with the fines is we can't put out a fine to anybody. If you read the manual says that fines can only be done by a judge, so we can recommend a fine, but it's got to go through the legal process of a judge in dictating what the fine is going to be.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. That's why we have Attorney Pucci here with us to help us navigate that legal process, acknowledging that none of us are attorneys. So.
Yeah, I mean, you would assess it if you were unable to resolve it, it would end up having to be resolved by a judge. But you would try to come up with a figure that people vote and are good with before you go ahead with that process. Hopefully you don't end up in court over it. Hopefully it gets resolved. But the discussion about the goal is very important for you members to have that discussion. What are we trying to achieve here? And then talk to counsel. You know, I'm in the business of trying to achieve my client's goals. And if you tell me your goal is X, then I'm going to give you the options to pursue X. But you really need to know by a majority vote, what is our goal here? What are we trying to accomplish by this? In the meantime, while you have that discussion, I can certainly give you a memo clarifying different issues. I'll look into that issue that you raised, Seth, about the cap on the fines. And I can put a short memo together for you about options that exist that you can continue the conversation and decide what you want to do, if anything.
Thank you. I'm definitely not a lawyer, and I'm going to probably butcher this, but it had to deal with the non-criminal disposition process only, I think. So if we go down a different process like a civil penalty, it might not matter. But it had to do with there being a Massachusetts statute that says in the case of regulations where the fee or the fine is not specifically specified, but it says up to a certain amount, that is up to the towns to actually make the specific penalty. So I believe that was the nature of that, but George, I'll let you look into it.
Yeah, and as you said, it's sort of a moot issue if you look at it from a penalty perspective.
Yeah. So I'll go to other commissioners here, and I see Will for as well. But for clarifications, I think it is obviously important to talk about what the goals are, and I think we do need to be realistic about how much this violator and their representatives have actually accommodated us in the process. It's clear that they're moving forward with some steps without any complaints. I agree, as Attorney Pucci said, they filed that fee. It's actually more than 2,000. 2,000 is just the town part, but there's state fees and the reviewer fees and the advertising fees and all that as well. And they have obviously submitted their restoration plan and planted plants and put that NOI before us. And at the same time, and I can't corroborate any of this because I'm not there, it's clear from abutters and their representatives that there's been some efforts to somehow to get around this process. So we do need to make sure that we're not just saying, oh, they've done everything right. We have to be clear about, are they really here completely committed to this without any restraints or restrictions? Mike, I'll go to you at this point, and then Linda, I'll go to you, and then Will, I'll go to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just speaking for myself as a commissioner, I think one of our primary goals obviously is compliance and restoration of the area. The fine as a deterrent is also important for the commission. What the deterrent means to individual people could be different. $12,000 would really not make me happy, but somebody else might, and I'm certainly not casting any shades, but somebody else might just say fine and laugh at that. So there's a balance there that's a more intricate discussion than I think we're really going to wrap our heads around tonight. And Mr. Pucci's comments are very helpful, and I hope to continue to get some more of that. But those are the two main goals that I see at the moment around the fines.
Yeah, for me, it's to not be punitive for being punitive sake, but to set a clear message that the Concom does not stand for unpermitted work, and that especially in egregious situations like this, we won't allow applicants or violators just to get away with it because they end up restoring things later.
Yeah.
You know, in the DEP's handbook and also in the reality of ecology, here's the best ways to protect and conserve land. Protect and conserve, mitigate, and then restore is last. Restore is to be used only in scenarios when you have exhausted every other option. So people are like, oh, this restoration is great. And yet in 30 or 40 years from now, it will be great. But this year, next year,
Not so much.
3 years, 5, I mean, it's better than what's there right now, but it's not ideal for the environment. So Linda, I'll go to you, and then John, I'll go to you.
I agree with Joe to some extent, with Mike to some extent, and John. My point is, where do we start that fine? What's the purpose of the fine? My goal is to compel them to comply and to restore. And I believe when we did the one in Sconset, we had them post something. I can't remember. It's been a while. We had them post something in case something happens to the plantings next year or next month, that there was a way to compel them to continue to restore out there.
Yes.
So my whole point is to get them to comply and don't do it again. And, you know, if that requires us to fine them, I was leery about the fines in the first place on a legal basis. And so I'm still leery about it. When do we start? How much do we do? It can't be arbitrary. So it would have to be based on something. Now, the other boards do the same thing when they apply. They go, I think it's 10 times at the HTC, 4 times the building permit fee for violations there. So there are other things on the books for other regulatory boards. So, you know, before it was like $50 a day or something. That's ridiculous. So we're sort of caught between that and being reasonable.
Thank you, Linda, and I respect and I appreciate all those points. I was just gonna say, well, actually, let's go to John first.
So I think everybody here agrees that this case is so over the top that we need to make some sort of statement. And Mr. Pucci mentioned it. The fine is not our only avenue to do that. We have other avenues available to us, the DEP fine, we have the conservation restriction, we have a bond. So there's other things that we can consider before we just, and a lot of these guys, a fine's not going to affect them that much. So I think we need to consider everything before we make up our mind.
And just to clarify, I'm not talking about a DEP fine. I'm talking about the civil penalty under the Wetlands Protection Act.
That's what I meant. Yeah.
There's a separate set of regulations, and this is commonly, you know, misperceived. There's a set of state regulations, not the Wetlands Protection Act regulations, but a set of monetary fee regulations that are specific to DEP. To Mass DEP, they have the authority under that. But Wetlands Protection Act, you have enforcement authority under the Wetlands Protection Act itself, 131 Section 40, as well as DEP. So I just wanted to clarify that for you so that there's no confusion. I'm not talking about going to DEP, and I'm not talking about assessing a penalty that's exclusively in DEP's jurisdiction.
Thank you, George. And just for your benefit, when we initially had this discussion and wrote the enforcement order, we did, as part of the enforcement order, authorize the commission staff to write a letter to the DEP task or strike force, letting them know that this violation happened and seeing if they wanted to take up their own enforcement against it. We haven't heard anything. We're not going to probably follow up with them. We're not going to pressure them, but they are at least theoretically aware that this has happened. And if they wish to conduct their own enforcement process, that is within their authority. But yes, the penalty that we're talking about here is within the Concom's authority.
Right. I just wanted to clarify that because we're talking about your jurisdiction and authority. And, you know, there's the Conservation Commission is the first line of defense when it comes to the State Wetlands Protection Act. So let's be very clear about that. So you have options, and they're not. I think it's great that you got in touch with Mass DEP. I think it's always great to confer with them. But my role with you is to strictly address issues that are within your jurisdiction, and you are the first line of defense under the state statute.
Thank you. I just want to make a comment about some of the things that have been brought up about other forms of surety to make it clear that compliance will be achieved, including performance bonds or other financial instruments or conservation restrictions. Those all remain on the table for when we discuss the notice of intent. Those things are allowed by statute. They're written into the Nantucket Wetlands bylaw. We can do them in any notice of intent, whether it has to deal with an enforcement or not. Someone could come in with whatever application they want. We could require those things. So none of those are off the table, but I think we should not conflate them with the purpose of the fine. Purpose of the fine could be to ensure compliance, and we could still do those other things to continue to ensure compliance. Commissioner Turcott, go ahead.
Thank you. So environmental crimes are notoriously difficult, and this is why when this came up and I was supporting fining, to me, it was a way to, in a bad situation, clearly indicate, step in and get before us with something real to fix this. And I thought, we could debate the amount, and it's more the fact that you got fined and everybody knows you got fined, and it's going to continue to happen until you respond properly. And we may never know the value of what was lost. That's going to be really difficult. But like, if hypothetically, I walk out of here tonight and I go to Marine Home Center and it's closed, but I make my way in there, and I don't know, I've been wanting a new bandsaw lately, and I grab one, nice Makita off the shelf, and if I get caught, I don't just return that and everyone says it's good. There's penalties on top of that for the act, and the violator's not forgiven for what they did. So the fining them from when we found out about it until they came back to us with something serious, to me, was a good way to not only make sure that they were hustling and got everybody together, but also for anybody watching, this is what we're going to do. We're going to make sure you fix this quickly every time. And we can get into what we mean by egregious, but that was why I supported fining them and taking that avenue.
Yeah. I mean, I think, sorry to keep on this shoplifting theme, but if you walked into the store and nicked one pack of gum and you got caught, you probably just get a warning because it's not egregious. But bandsaw, hundreds or thousands of dollars, it's serious. So, it's not like one shrub was just knocked over by a tractor by accident. That's a violation. But it was done unintentionally. The property owner here clearly knew the delineation of the wetlands because they had recently, within the past 3 years, applied for a notice of intent. They have an active order of conditions on this site. There's no reasonable justification to say they did it by accident or they did it without knowledge that there's wetlands there. That doesn't hold water at all. They had actively engaged in Concom permitting processes in the short months leading up to this act. And then they just decided, you know what, that board, I don't care about their authority. I'm going to do whatever I want, and cut over 100 shrubs and grub area. And I think it's like almost an acre of total disturbance. That's egregious if you ask me. So that's where I'll leave it.
I have a
Who
quick
wants to-
question
Yeah, go ahead.
for Mr. Pucci. Can you opine on this? There's been some discussion about whether we could revoke that active order of conditions. And there's been difference of opinion between the parties on whether we could or whether we couldn't, or whether that's an appropriate, part of this whole enforcement thing, so.
Yeah, my initial impression is no, that would not be an available remedy. But again, I would have to look at it. I would have to look at the specifics and comb back through your bylaw and regulations as well.
Yeah, we'll save an actual opinion on that until you've had a chance to review. Linda, go ahead.
And then the other part of it was I was uncomfortable finding them when they did respond. And they are trying to work through it. So where, how long, fine, what days, or it's just a penalty? I don't want to be punitive. They're going to have to spend a lot of money on this, like the guys in Sconset did, hundreds of thousands out there. So that's why I'm having an issue with the fining issue here, and where, how, and what.
Thank you. Any other commission? Yeah, Tim, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just basically going to repeat what everybody else has said. I think it's perfectly appropriate to have a fine as a deterrent and also as leverage over whoever made the violation. And if someone who's made a violation is cooperative, we could also reduce the fine if we think they've really gone out of their way to solve it. And if they haven't, then the fine stays or is worse. I don't have a problem with this. And the fact that they have to spend, I don't care, $50,000, $100,000 to fix it, that's their problem. They broke the regulation. So.
Joe?
I suspect the fine will be a lot smaller than the repair that needs to be done to the environment that was mashed from our experience with two of these in the last couple of years.
Yes, you don't need to suspect that. I can say with 100% definitive statement that whatever fine we ultimately assess, if any, will be significantly less than the cost of the plant material, contracting, legal fees, surveying fees, engineering. All those costs are way in excess of whatever this fine would be.
When I think of the folks that are neighbors or abutters to 14 Plover, I wonder what they would be satisfied with in terms of a fine. Would you say $6,000? They probably say it's a joke.
Yeah, I'm going to respectfully ask you to not go down that route because this is a public meeting. The fine really shouldn't be negotiated with among members of the public. It should be determined at a commission level only. Mike, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I guess my question is, where do we go from here? Do we set a special meeting date to discuss this? Do we continue just discussing it here in the open forum? Is it something we have to do in private? I'm just unclear where we go.
So I think the thing we need to do today is to see if we have a majority of members who want to assess some type of fine at all. If we do, then we will direct Attorney Pucci to look at the options available for us and craft a memo to the commission. And then once we've had a time to review that memo at a future meeting, we can discuss it again to see if we want to adopt any of those options in the memo and what the actual dollar amount would be. And then once we vote on all those things, then we would have to authorize town council to act on our behalf to bring that before the select board and any other appropriate legal avenues that would be required. But the first thing we need to do is just to see if at least 4 people want to assess a fine. So Mike, would you like to assess a fine?
Yes, and I'll say that I'm going to stick with our, or at least for now, I'm sticking with the date of the violation and somewhere where we got compliance is where I'm at.
Thank you. RJ?
Yeah, same.
Okay. Joe?
my answer would be yes, but it's a yes tied to a non-cooperative violator.
Okay,
For someone who wants to cooperate, that I would say no.
okay, Tim,
Yes, I think I agree with RJ and Mike.
John?
I'm on the fence here. I'm going to say no because I think we can do a lot more in the NOI. I think we'll have a lot more teeth there. So for now, I'm going to say no.
Linda?
Hold on. Here we go. I'm with Joe and I'm with John. I just I'll let George sort of look into this for us because this isn't the last time this is going to happen. So you sort of need to know what the protocol is and how to do it, when to do it, and how much to do it. But I'm still uncomfortable doing it if somebody is complying or trying to work with us. So I
Thank
will
you.
say yes just to have him look into it, and then I'll reserve my final vote until see what he comes up with.
Thank you. And the chair would like to assess a fine and have town council look into it. So we have 4 people who definitively would like to assess fines, 2 people who are willing to explore, and 1 who doesn't really want to. So at this time, Attorney Pucci, we would request that you look into this process for us and draft us a memo with appropriate options that may be before us. Do you need anything else for us to aid you in that process?
No, I'm happy to do that. Did you have the hearing on, did you want to put, I can get you a memo before you have the hearing on the notice of intent if you wanted to have it that same night.
That
Up
would
to
be
you.
ideal if you could get the memo prior to June 5th, and if you could
Oh.
plan to appear at the June 5th meeting.
Let me just, don't want to make a promise I can't keep. Yes, I can. Oh, that's perfect. I can definitely get you the memo. I just wanted to make sure I was available on June 5, which I am. Perfect.
Okay, well, June 5th, that works out for us in both ways. We look forward to reviewing that memo. Will, do you have something that you would like to comment on?
Just super quick, since we're all here. Also, Mr. Pucci, if helpful in any way, or if any clarification is needed, I am very available.
Great. Great.
Okay. George, as always, it's a pleasure. Thank you for aiding us through this process.
Same here. Good to be with you tonight. Thanks.
At this time, do commissioners have any other remaining things that they think we need to discuss related to 14 Plover Lane? Okay, we will move on for now and continue this at least at the June 5th meeting, if not prior to that. So we'll now move on to discussion of a potential mechanism for SPPF sand delivery. I'm going to give a brief overview. Yes, RJ,
John?
So RJ, I think you
I'm
want to
recused.
recuse.
Thank you.
John, you are eligible to sit on this if you like. You were not eligible to sit on the notice of intent because it happened prior to you becoming on the board. But because this is a separate issue, you are eligible to sit on it unless you have some type of conflict that you would need to recuse. Okay, so Commissioner Turcotte is recused from this enforcement action discussion. I'm going to give a general overview on the process and my thoughts. We'll see if Will has anything to add. And then I know we have representatives from SPPF and from the Town of Nantucket Natural Resources Department. And I believe we still have town council with us as well for this. So there is a request from the Sconset Beach Preservation Fund before the town to use material that's being excavated from a project at 64 Baxter Road to be used as mitigation material for the geotube project. This request in theory sounds quite simple, but in logistics is actually very complicated because of the existing permits, licenses, and or lack thereof of those things on the project areas. So You may remember that we just issued the order of conditions for SE 48, 37, 36, and also NAN 142. The SE 48, 37, 36 was subject or is subject to 2 appeals, and because of that is not active at this point until those appeals have been determined. It's my understanding that no appeals have been submitted for the local order yet, but if that is incorrect, Will, you can clarify.
Have Vince 100% clarify, but I'm pretty certain we don't have a appeal for the local order.
Vince Murphy, please chime in.
That is also my understanding.
Okay. There's also SC 48, 28, 24, which is expired in January of 2025 this year. And related to SC 48, 2024, there is an existing enforcement order for removal of that structure that went to Superior Court and was upheld, and now is a final order of that Superior Court. It would be my utmost request that whatever we do tonight, we don't amend that order in any way, because that's going to make it super complicated. If we wish to issue a new enforcement order to allow for sand, we can go down that route, but we shouldn't even consider amending that final order. It's gonna dilute everything, make it super complicated, and also it's gonna make it so that if that order needs to be acted upon and that the removal needs to take place, it's gonna confuse the provisions in that order. So SPPF is claiming that this is a time-sensitive request because the excavation for 64 Baxter Road either already has happened or is imminently happening, and that the material on site can only stay on site until May 11th. They're requesting that rather than moving it off-site to a sand storage site like they've done in other projects, that it be brought directly from 64 Baxter Road to the geotube area and used to cover the geotubes or serve as mitigation sand. They did submit with this request to the select board, which then ultimately got forwarded to us. They did submit some narrative and a grain size analysis document. I will say that the way that we look at compatibility for mitigation sand is pretty different than just grain size analysis. So it's different than what was put in 2824. What's in 3736 is different, but even acknowledging that 3736 isn't active right now, what we put in the new regulations that went into effect on January 1st, 2025 for compatible material is much more encompassing than grain size analysis. It also looks at moist months of color, angularity, odor, things like that. So we will have to determine if we allow this sand to be placed, if it will need additional testing or monitoring prior to its placement. So I'll stop my introductory statement there. Will, do you have anything you'd like to add at this time?
I honestly do not think I do at this juncture. But if, through you, Mr. Chair, I'm not sure if Vince has anything he'd like to add at this point, but.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go to the representatives from SPPF to clarify any claims I made or talk about what they're hoping to do. Then I'll allow Mr. Murphy a chance to do so, and then we will have a commissioner's discussion on what we want to do, and we will proceed from there. Attorney Nyland, would you wish to make a comment?
Yes, thank you very much. The timing, I thought that we weren't going to get to this until 7:30, so I was on my way home, but then when the earlier one was one away, I pulled over. So I've never done a Zoom from my phone. I'm sitting in the Linfield High School parking lot that I've been here for an hour and 15 minutes. And I think it was a very helpful discussion listening to the enforcement order that was before us. So first of all, I would like to thank the commission for putting this on the agenda this evening. It is time sensitive in that the material we will lose the 3,000 to 4,000 cubic yards if we don't have a decision this evening. I think the good news is, this. I don't often come to a commission and ask for an enforcement order, but I would consider this to be a friendly enforcement order. That is, we believe that we have compatible sand, and I'll get to the issue you raised relative to 3736. But we have a compatible sand, which is from the same general area in terms of the bluff, and have an opportunity to put that onto the property, which when we're looking at objectives, I think is beneficial to everybody involved. There's no downside that I can see once we look at the grain size and the other analysis that's taken place to placing this material on the ramp and ultimately on the geotubes. I would also say to you, Mr. Chairman, that I agree wholeheartedly with you about not amending the enforcement order. I agree that we don't have 2824, the earlier order that we can pin to, and 3736 has been amended on the WPA side. But you do have an open enforcement order, and I believe that you can issue an enforcement order separate and distinct without amending the other that would allow us to go forward and to place this sand, because technically an enforcement order is when you are out of compliance, and technically, we are out of compliance, so it would be appropriate. Now, recognizing that, what we did do, even though 3736 was appealed, is we did follow the guidelines. I will say to you that we do have the Munsell information that was received after we'd made our submission, and we made a decision that what we didn't want to do was add to the commission's packet, and then somebody would say, well, you didn't have this in front of us, so we can't consider it. I will tell you that in terms of the Munsell coloring, it's no surprise, since we're right in the same vicinity of the bluff, that the coloration and the angularity are similar, and that's why we believe it's compatible. We also, from an odor standpoint, we also did a 21E. We looked at whether or not there'd been exposure, any releases of hazardous material, and that came back clean. We have medium to coarse sand, which is the same characteristic that we have of the existing sand that's out there, what I call the parent material. So we're very comfortable in terms of the grain size, the contamination, the Munsell coloring, as well as the angularity, that we do have a compatible sand that we can add. So what we're looking for the commission to do is to issue an order separate and distinct under 2824 that allows us to go forward and to place that sand. We'll take it down the normal truck route, take it to the ramp. I think there's an understanding, and I'm not sure if Jamie Feely is still on the call, but there's an understanding that a portion of that will actually be to resuscitate the ramp, and the remainder will go on the geotubes. And if you're worried that because it's on the ramp that's not going to engage with the littoral process, that's not accurate. So every bit of sand that will be added will be able to contribute to the littoral process. We're willing to do whatever monitoring or justification and verification is required to taking pictures when the material is placed, If he wants to take another picture after a first storm event, that we're able to do that. What I think what we want to make sure is that we don't lose an opportunity to have 3,000 to 4,000 cubic yards of compatible sand. And we've been told, we were told that it wasn't going to be available if we didn't act last week. But when we explained that we were going to be on the agenda this week, the contractor said that he would hold off until this weekend so that the commission could act. So I hope that I've clarified a number of your questions, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission, in order to go forward. We think it's a positive project. We've heard nothing but positive responses from people who are on the select board and with the town, and we're hoping that we can go forward with it tonight.
Thank you, Chip. Just a few comments, and then Meredith, if you wish to speak, I'll allow you to as well. So these aren't meant to be critical comments, but definitely, I mean, I trust you saying that those other parameters of compatibility do match, but we definitely need that submitted to the commission. I don't know if it needs to be submitted like right now, but as soon as possible would be great. And also 3,000 to 4,000, I know is an estimate, but it's not going to ultimately be sufficient. When that material is placed, we need an accurate accounting of the material to the exact volume. So you can do that by monitoring the truck trips or any other way that makes sense. But yeah, I think if we are going to allow this, we need the rest of the compatibility information submitted. We need the exact volume recorded, and having some photo monitoring or other monitoring certainly makes sense. I'll just.
We can certainly do that. I have the material. As I said, I'm sitting in my car. So I think that I can certainly transmit that, and you can make your vote contingent upon the receipt of that Munsell coloring, and I can get that to you tonight. That can be sent over to Natural Resources. In terms of volume, I mean, we all know the answer to that is we can't confirm that until we have the actual movement that's in the truck and its weight, et cetera. So, but we can provide that to you, obviously.
Yeah, I'm not asking you to provide it right now. I'm just asking for it to be recorded when it's placed.
It would certainly be part of the. It would be the enforcement order would have a number of conditions, and one of the conditions would be the receipt of the Munsell coloring, and the other condition would be that we'd have to provide you with the volume.
Thank you, Ms. Moldenhauer. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. Yes, I was just going to reiterate, and I won't try to reiterate things that Mr. Nyland already stated, but Meredith Moldenhauer on behalf of SBPF. This is a unique situation in the fact that in the past, just distinguishing this from past situations where we purchased the sand, this is actually a donation from the homeowner that is obviously excavating the sand. And so that's obviously a very unique situation where it is differentiating this from other situations. And as Attorney Nyland did indicate that, we were under the impression that they were excavating this last week. We do appreciate the commission putting this on your agenda tonight. And we did have the homeowner coordinate with their contractor to delay that. But they had indicated that they already had subcontractors and couldn't delay it past the May 11th date that you, Commissioner, already referenced and mentioned. And so for those reasons, obviously, we would be appreciative of the commission making a decision. In the memorandum that I submitted to the commission, it did indicate that we would be more than happy to comply with any conditions for documenting, both with photo documentation as well as written documentation of the final amount of sand that was placed on the Hoyks Hollow ramp, as well as whatever sand was then utilized and where it was utilized on the geotubes and creating that ramp as well. So happy to answer any other questions. Thank you so much, commissioners, hopefully for your time tonight.
Thank you as well. Vince Murphy, I'll recognize you at this point.
Thank you, Chair Engelborg. Town staff met to discuss these issues earlier this week. And when we were looking at it, and the fact that we've been asking for sand to be placed on this area for quite some time, town staff and the representative from the select board that was present were all very supportive of this. It would be very beneficial to have this amount of sand placed on in the region of 3,000 to 4,000 cubic yards, and it would be something of the urging of the town to try and see if we can get this to happen as soon as possible. Thank you very kindly.
Thank you. Attorney Pucci, are you with us at this moment?
I am still with you, actually.
Thank you. I have two questions for you. The first is, do you feel legally we'd be authorized to issue a separate enforcement order to allow for the work to proceed?
Yeah,
You can answer that.
yes, I think that you could allow this work to proceed under an enforcement order with adequate conditions.
Thank you. And the second question, in your legal opinion, does SPPF have all the other appropriate requirements they would need, such as an active license or any other permitting for the town, from the town, that they would need to actually place this material?
Yes, in my opinion, they would be able to do this under, assuming a enforcement order from the commission, and they comply with that, would be maintaining the lawfully existing structure under the prior license. So in my opinion, it would not need a new license approved by town meeting.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, questions or comments at this point? Tim?
This seems like a really nice windfall, and if it seems like there's no reason not to do it, so I would support it for sure.
Linda?
It's a no-brainer for me. I'd support it.
Okay, anyone else?
So I support it.
Thanks, Joe. Yeah, Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I also support it. I think it's very practical. My only comment is on the ramp material. I'm not sure that the sand would be compatible ramp material. We've had discussions about that in the past. Whatever ramp material is needed to get machinery up and down. Sometimes sand can be too soft, so maybe that's just a question for Jamie, or something we just want to sort out in the how we do this.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you there. The material that comes out of the bank versus the beach is different. I mean, in their sediment analysis, they're looking at not much fine, actually very little fine. It's mostly very coarse to coarse medium sand with a little bit of medium in there. And this is also going to be a temporary thing. I think they're just going to use the ramp to deliver that sand the one time. Is it the best ramp material ever? No, I mean, should it be gravel or steel or something else? Probably, but it's not anything different than the ramp material that they've used in the past.
So it works for me.
Okay,
Just one question.
go ahead.
Would there be anything reason they would have to remove it if it wasn't suitable or something, or is that not really a possibility?
No.
You mean if they placed the material
And they
then
monitor it.
and then we got the compatibility report and then said
Yeah.
it wasn't?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, technically that would
Possible.
be a violation, but
Okay.
I think it would be in absolutely nobody's interest
For that.
to lie before this commission saying it's compatible and
Yeah.
it not being compatible. What would that serve? I mean,
Yeah,
I
no.
trust them that they said they've done the analyses and matches the compatibility. And thank you, Attorney Nyland, for being in the parking lot. I've done that before. It's not the best, but I think, can condition the order on it being received prior to the placement of the sand. So even if you get it to town staff tomorrow morning and the material is placed tomorrow afternoon, that's fine by me, but.
Yes, and thank you. And as I indicated, you do have that sieve analysis that shows it is the coarse to medium coarse sand, so it's not the softer or fine sand. So yeah, we're comfortable with that, and Jamie's comfortable with that as well.
Okay, Will, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask, I think you have, but has everybody had a chance to see the drafted language for this? It looks a lot like a findings page. I'm not sure if Jeff sent this out
I
or
saw
not.
it, I think.
I think it was in the packet.
We could maybe put it up on the screen.
Yeah.
But before we get to
can
that, I just want to recognize that I see hands raised for members of the public. I'm going to not allow public comment at this point because I don't think it is germane or necessary for the purposes of this application. But if you have any specific comments that you want to relay to town staff, as always, you are able to do that. We'll go ahead and put that up. So we're gonna have to do two things. It sounds like everybody is at least unofficially okay with creating this enforcement action. So we're gonna have to discuss the conditions of that enforcement and then make a motion to issue that enforcement. And if
You want
could
that motion now? Do
Sorry, say that again?
you want me to make that motion now?
No, we have to look at the conditions first.
Okay.
Would you guys like me to read this stuff?
You
I
don't need to
don't
read
mind,
it, but
but-
can you give a general overview?
Yeah. So, the enforcement overview is a lot of what we just talked about, but I think some of this language is pretty crucial. One-time installation of compatible nourishment sand to cover the existing geotubes. This is why. The material is needed during the time of appeals. This enforcement shall not be considered as part of the failure criteria for SE 483736, which is
Also
under,
needs to not meet the failure criteria for NAN 142.
for NAN 1,
I think it's 142.
I think it is 142.
Yeah, 142. But that needs to be a separate sentence because that's not under appeal currently.
Right.
I'm expecting it to become under
I'll
appeal.
add it right here.
But maybe
and
maybe
then-
it won't.
Hold on, let me just write that real quick. As part of the failure criteria for SA 36, which at this time is under appeal. Or I think I can just put, or we'll have a run-on sentence rather than two really repetitive ones, if that's cool. This enforcement shall not be considered as part of the failure criteria for SE 48, which at this time is under appeal. Or part of the failure criteria for the local permit. NAN 142.
There you go.
Does this make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. All right, you just deleted your 142, but
We got it. All right. I think that makes sense there. Any future sand installation would be required to have a valid order of conditions or be ordered by the commission at that time, whatever that process may be. General condition 1, that's on everything. So we are asking for, I will say a lot of these, what we've done, we've altered a few of them slightly, but what we've done is pulled the nourishment related criteria off of the other permits, but added some specific language for this enforcement situation. So notice
yeah,
of
I think we
commencement.
need to get rid of the 48 hours prior to commencement.
Yeah.
Seems like they want to do this yesterday, so.
Yeah.
They've told us that they're doing it. So.
And I mean, I think that this probably was intended to be placement, but I think we'll say there may be another condition that covers that, so.
Probably have to send this out tonight so we can sign it, though.
I mean, it needs to be
I can sign it
authorized
and you
tonight,
can
and it can
ratify
be
it.
signed on the behalf of the conservation agent or on behalf of the chair, and then it can be ratified at a future meeting.
Do we want to just keep notice of work?
Yeah, just
commencement?
delete the 48 hours.
And then, so our stake position of mean high water is the limit of work. No seaward work under the mean high water line, and also this needs to be changed.
Yep.
We can just use order. All sand used for mitigation or to fill and cover the geotube shall be imported from an off-site source, shall be compatible with the existing bank and beach sediments. Material will be judged on compatibility to the parent material by coloration, wet Munsell color, grain size, angularity, percent composition of all soil components, soil tests, and this is, I think, the operative term. The results shall be delivered to the commission staff for review prior to the placement of the material.
Yep,
Do we have a question? Sorry.
that's right.
One sample per 10,000 yards of, so this would be one sample per site under that, so one sample. Bank and beach sample for every 200 yards. And all nourishment material must be compatible with one of the resource area samples, so that's just the technical. Delivery by truck, we're gonna have all of the sand shall be logged by truck trip and include the original sand source in any reporting, which this one we'd know it.
So then let's make a new new condition 6 that says, the
I want to know the amount.
the final amount of, or the final volume of sand delivered to the site shall be recorded and submitted to the commission prior to placement, or following placement. And then you can keep number 7 in, but it's not gonna be relevant on this site because they're gonna meet the exemption for the less than 10% fines. So you can just go to number 8.
All access for construction, it shall be from the Hoyks Hollow access to the south. We have the request for temporary access language,
Which they're gonna need.
blah, blah, blah. If there's anything specific in here. Nourishment sand shall be installed in a manner that covers the seaward face of the structure, so the geotubes are no longer visible and the sand is available to enter the littoral system through wave action. I believe this was specifically altered.
Yep.
I think pretty important. An as-built plan showing the volumes in cross-section no greater than 100 feet apart must be provided to the commission prior to any additional stockpiling of sand, not super relevant here, clearly. Use of small vehicles to inspect or repair is permitted. We have to give staff sign off. Our datum requirements for the survey elevations. We've got raw survey data and text specifications of any equipment used to collect data shall be made available to the commission in public, and no vehicles or machinery shall be stored overnight on site within any resource areas. And then post initial installation, the applicants shall meet the following conditions. An as-built plan of the structure, water lines, and cover volumes shall be provided within 30 days of completion of the structure. So I guess we did have
Well,
cover
so
volumes mentioned.
cover volumes would be what exists when the survey is done.
Gotcha.
But that might have already eroded or
Right.
accrued somehow. Delivery volumes and cover volumes could be different. I think you can take the condition and put it in that section if you want, but
I want to make
it
sure.
doesn't really matter.
No, it's fine, but you just made me want to make sure that I wrote delivery volumes.
The final
it makes
volume of
sense.
sand delivered to the site,
Yeah.
yeah. You know, cover is what's there when they do the survey, but
Perfect.
delivery is different.
Makes sense. And then we just have a list of property owners and title info for where's covered by this, but that's what we've got for a draft for this.
Commissioners, any questions, comments, additions, concerns? Meredith, I see your hand raised. Do you wish to weigh in?
Hi, thank you so much, Chair. I just, two comments. One, on the beach buggy for equipment, we will be using a dozer and a skid steer. Um, I think that the beach buggy was mostly for inspection purposes, from Natural Resources for inspections, when I was looking at the other order. So I don't know if we want to just make sure that that's clear as to kind of what equipment will be used. That's the same equipment that's been used by our contractor in all the years past. So I don't know if we just want to clarify that. And then number 10, I couldn't see it. You guys scrolled past it, but I think it was number 10, or no, that was number 10. Number 9, maybe, about the location of the sand. I just want to be clear. The sand will be utilized to rebuild the southern return in order to get the skid steer and dozer up to the top. We obviously do not know exactly how much. I want to be clear that obviously the location of the sand is identified, because obviously it can't cover the seaward face until it first covers the southern ramp to be able to get the skid steer and dozer up to the top. And then we will utilize what available sand is there to potentially push that down onto the lower tiers. But I didn't want to have an issue of kind of the number 9 not being clear in regards to what we were doing. So I think hopefully that clarifies things, and I see Will is already editing it. I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Yeah, the beach buggy thing has been in every permit. It says such as, it's not required to be that. It's small vehicles. I think it's fine. I mean, if you guys want to call it the vehicles that they're using, it's fine. Or we could just say the use of small vehicles and just delete beach buggy. As long as we're basically saying we're not allowing 10-ton trucks to be on the beach. So that's fine.
If I could offer a friendly suggestion.
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. So skid steers and various things like it are generally considered to be types of construction plant equipment. So there are no small equipment effectively. So if you just said, regular construction plant equipment, I'm also okay with just leaving out beach buggies.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, the exact vehicles need to be authorized by the Natural Resources Department. So if the Natural Resources Department says that the machinery that they're using is fine, we say the machinery they're using is fine. They're in the bird nesting timeline. They're gonna have to get the NRD sign off to use vehicles on the beach in condition 8. They're gonna have to get NRD. They're gonna have to tell NRD what the exact vehicles they're using are, and if NRD signs off on it, then it's fine.
We can separately through other staff get that undertaken without issue.
Commissioners? Chip, do you have a question or comment?
Well,
You're on mute.
I'm sorry. Am I off?
Yeah, we can hear you. No, you're on mute again now.
The phone.
Are we doing okay there now? Sorry.
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
All right. It only has to do with the as-built. Is there a need for an as-built if we're telling you everything that we're delivering and we're replacing it? It seemed like you weren't requiring that, but I don't see it erased from the end of the provisions. What are you looking for from us when we're completed? A certification or something from us that states how much we placed there and where we placed it, as opposed to an engineered as-built. We want to give you what you need. I just want to clarify exactly what you need.
Yeah, I mean, I think it as-built is ultimately a good idea if the staff agrees to that. I think at minimum, we need the delivery volume and photo monitoring, which we don't have in here yet, but we should have, and a narrative of what was done. But having a engineered stamp plan to document the exact status of that coastal engineering structure at that time is helpful if commissioners think so.
I don't
I'm
want to
not sure.
require it.
I'm not sure how relevant it will be for a very
No.
long time. That's my concern.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I mean, it's a dynamic area, but it's the only other plans we have for the area are very outdated at this point. So any information we get is helpful. But commissioners, you decide.
I don't need a survey, just site plan.
Yeah, I think if we have the documentation of through some photos and accurate accounting, and essentially a report that will suffice for this juncture for me, anyways.
Okay.
Yeah,
Other commissioners?
Same. I don't think we need an engineer
Same.
as built.
Okay. Will, can we change this to say post initial installation?
Documentation.
Well, we should probably do something
Photos.
before we get to this. We should probably say in the section up here that the all deliveries should be photo documented and that the site should be photo monitored on at least a daily basis while sand placement activities are occurring. And then in the post-initial construction, we can say a report containing the narrative, the delivery volume, and the
Photos.
monitoring photographs shall be submitted to the commission within 30 days of completion of the sand placement.
Thank you. That makes sense.
A detailed narrative, the delivery and cover volumes, and a report including all the photo monitoring. Go ahead. Yeah, that's fine. Monitoring photos shall be provided within 30 days of the completion of sand delivery. Yeah.
Off. Wow. I got lost trying to decide where to put it, and now I have forgotten your
Yeah,
first condition.
Just put it there after 6, saying monitoring photographs shall be required for all sand delivery activities. I think that's fine.
Do you think that we need to quantify that somehow?
No, once completed.
I mean,
No, I'm sorry. I just meant like the way that that's worded. Does that mean picture of every truck dumped, or like, I don't know if I'm sounding crazy right now, but I was just interpreting it like maybe
Yeah.
I'm the only one.
No, I mean, we can say we can say more if we want, but I think that is
sense.
honestly fine. Okay, commissioners, any other questions, comments, additions?
Want me to make a motion now?
No, not yet. Attorney Pucci, are you still with us?
I am. I'm just trying to sneak in a late dinner. Sorry.
Sorry about that. Do you see anything in this enforcement order that you think is a concern?
No.
Okay. Yes, at this time, Linda, I'll accept a motion to issue the enforcement order.
I'll make a motion to issue the enforcement order as amended.
Second?
Thank you, Linda, for the motion and Mike for the second. By roll call vote, Mike Mizzarelli,
Aye.
Joe Pondowski,
Aye.
Tim Brand,
Aye.
John Schaefer,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
Aye.
Seth Engelborg, aye. That carries unanimously. Given the time.
Thank you. Thank you very
as
much.
well. Given the time-sensitive nature.
Thank you
of
so
this-
much.
Thank you. Given the time-sensitive nature of this request, what we're gonna do is we're gonna have Will sign the enforcement order in his role as a conservation agent, and we will ratify this enforcement order as a commission at the May 22nd meeting.
Can't do it now?
Okay?
Yes, and I just want to clarify, that needs to be signed tonight, not tomorrow
Yeah.
morning.
Needs to be signed as soon as possible.
Will's got to go back to the office to get his car, so I guess it's going out tonight, folks.
Yeah.
That's right. Not happening. Get over
I
it.
want donuts. I'm just kidding. All right.
Okay. Anything else that we need to discuss here?
No.
It was Will, but yeah, go ahead. You good on that?
Yeah,
Okay.
I agree with what Linda said.
Do you have any staff reports?
No.
Nope, things are great.
Okay, is there a motion to adjourn? Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Joe, for the motion and Linda
Second.
for the second. By roll call vote, Mike Mizzarelli,
Aye.
RJ Turcott,
Aye.
Joe Pondowski.
Aye.
Tim Brand.
Aye.
John Schaefer.
Aye.
Linda Williams.
Aye.
Seth Engelborg, aye. That carries unanimously. Thank you all for your patience and work today. This meeting is adjourned.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
It's adjourned. Have a